Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Tex Wesson joining us. He is a cryptid and paranormal field researcher. He has the YouTube channel Tex's Front Porch, or Tex with apostrophe, Front Porch on YouTube. You definitely want to check it out. Josh Turner from Paranormal Roundtable the last couple weeks has been trying to help me find guests, and this one is going to be really interesting. We're going to get into Dogman, of course, Bigfoot, and a lot of other experiences and Tex's research into this field. Of course, lots of weird to get to in the World Wide Web of Weird, and we will take your phone calls later in the show. I can't wait to talk to the guest tonight. He's actually going to join us for the World Wide Web of Weird, even. I love it when guests do that. So much to get to, so let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest is Tex Wesson. We already had him on for sound check, so I want to make sure he's good here. But I want to get, before Tex, I want to make sure Rob didn't get here for sound check. He just got here. I want to make sure he's working good. Are you there, Rob?
I hope I am. My mic wasn't
You are. Oh, it's working. Thank God. Thank God. Rob, Tex, Rob. Tex met Jamie. How you doing tonight, Rob? Thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Rob? Good.
Rob here at Tex likes to help us out with running the World Wide Web of Weird at the beginning of the show. Where we have like news stories and that. Let me get rid of mine here so I'm not lagging it down. But we do like current news stories and stuff in the weird, unusual. Sometimes set commentary on Florida Man. I don't know. I don't know if I got one of those now. I don't think I do, no. More just commentary about our government, no. But a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into our World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I'd start off with something that I saw the headline for this article, and it brought me back to my childhood. As much as I fear water and sharks and water with sharks, I've always, as a kid, been fascinated with like underwater bases. I loved them in all kinds of fiction, and Jaws 3D. You remember the underwater base? I would love that idea. Well, I saw this article. An anonymous investor is funding a permanent underwater human colony. I wonder how many people want to join that after the last billionaire built us up. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio network, we are a webcast streaming out live to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. But if you want to listen, I will narrate as best as possible. All right, let me get Rob's share screen up here. Yes, Las Vegas, man. Oh, no, wait, that's not right. Rob, reading your headline there. It's not that. How did I get there? Claims alien told him to kill. That's later. Should be Article 1. Did that get messed up? Did I not get it in there? Did I screw it up? Or did it not update? Let me check. Not that people matter what they see. It's just some graphic of a cool-looking underwater base that hasn't been built yet that some billionaire wants to build. But I find this interesting. Yeah, it should be there, Article 1. Oh, yeah, that's it. Sorry. Looks small on mine. That's it. Yeah, like, cool post here. Humans could be living 200 meters, 220 yards beneath the ocean by 2027. A British team is building a deep and underwater settlement where scientists, possibly wealthy tourists, who else, will spend weeks exploring the ocean's mysteries, funded by an anonymous billionaire. $120 million. Now, like I said, the last, what was the name of the sub that just imploded? That was a big deal. What was that? Titan? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that little fiberglass submarine.
I don't know how people are feeling about underwater billionaire investments and risking their lives with it. They better do a better job. But,
absolutely.
I always had a fear of water, but as a kid, I was always fascinated. I don't know about you. I grew up in the 80s and Jaws 3D, man. I don't know how many times I watched that cheesy. You ever remember the Jaws? Jaws coming to the screen like super slow motion? It's supposed to be 3D. I never saw it 3D. I was a kid. I saw it on flat screen, but I didn't care. It was an underwater base, and they're all screaming in slow motion. There's a mad scientist in me that wants to see this happen. Like, this would be cool, But
well, I'd be down for it.
Yeah, like, can I visit? Like, after a bunch of other people live there for months, and it's safe, and my dog is going nuts upstairs. I apologize. It's President's Day, so everybody's up at my house, and my dog is literally going nuts. If you hear that, I apologize. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Maybe some other people don't like the idea of humans living under the ocean. This next one, I'll be totally cheesy here, but this next one up is insane video shows kayaker being swallowed by humpback whale. Have you seen this one? Should be a video. It should be Article 2 video. Tell me that one in there. Yeah, it should be Article 2 movie. Yeah, that's it. I don't know if you guys have seen this. One of my kids at work is like, "Did you see the guy getting swallowed by a whale?" I'm like, "Jonah? No." But yes. Insane video shows kayaker being swallowed by a humpback whale. For kayaker Adrian Samakins, if you say the name, butchered that. It had been an adventure of a lifetime, but little did he know that within seconds he would find himself inside the mouth of a gargantuan ocean-born mammal. The incident, which was captured on camera by Adrian's own father. Oh my God, I would not want to be his father. That would be horrible. Who was filming nearby, saw a huge humpback whale suddenly emerge from the water directly beneath him, engulfing both him and his kayak in one fluid motion. "I thought I was dead," Adrian told the Associated Press. "I thought it'd eat me and that it swallowed me." For a brief second, his father looked on in horror until, as quickly as it had begun, the incident ended with Adrian being released back into the water by the creature. Fortunately, he hadn't been suffered any injuries, but the freezing water was still a major concern. "When I came up and started floating, I was scared that something might happen to my father, too, that we wouldn't reach the shore in time or that I would get hypothermia," he recalled. As luck would have it, however, they were both able to make it back to shore in one piece. All right, go ahead and play this. I got a little clip of it here. It's just off the website, yeah.
This happened not that long ago, too.
Whale's like, "Yeah, you're encroaching on our territory. We've had enough. It's a warning." That would scare. See, I was watching another video of a lady with like on a kayak with this huge great white shark that's like stalking her. I'm like, nope, no. No. Like, my son got a kayak for his Christmas, and that's like his favorite gift of all time, and loves riding. He's like, "Dad, you want to come out?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." And this is a private lake, dude. What's gonna kill me? I'm like, "No, I'm good." I am not a swimmer.
So where does your fear of the water? I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but where does your fear of the water come from?
I really think it's past life. I really think it's past life. I don't have proof of that.
So?
I had a psychic. Remember that Ghost of Shepherdstown show? Remember that show, Lorraine Johnson? She was on my show, and she called me out on it. She's like, "You got to fear water?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, that's because you died in a past life on a ship that went down in the Bermuda Triangle." I'm like, "Oh my god." that hit home. That hit really home because I've had always a fascination with the Bermuda Triangle and missing ships. And
I was going to ask you on the Titanic or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It hit me on. I have one of my earliest memories. Well, I don't get in. We got to get into more stuff. One of my earliest memories, though, is before I could even talk, my mom doing that YMCA, train your kid in the pool, little infant swimming thing, and me being put in the water and going, scream. So yeah, hi mom, if you're watching. Okay, let's move on. All right, where we are. So now humpback killer whales, but you also have to worry about men wanting to kill their wives because a paranormal meter might tell them to actually eat them. So a whale could eat you in the sea or your husband. He looks like he needs to stop eating as it is. The bizarre incident saw a man shoot his wife after he became convinced that his life was in danger. And what is surely one of the strangest court cases we've seen in a while, the accused 46-year-old Jared Wolf is facing 7 charges, including first-degree murder, carrying a firearm without a license, and aggravated assault. According to court documents, the strangest began when Wolf had decided to use some sort of meter to check a statue at his friend's house for paranormal activity and was spooked when it picked up an unexpectedly high reading. Had somebody turn on the microwave? This prompted him to descend into a spiraling state of anxiety and paranoia. Wolf stated he thought that his wife, Jane White, and his friends were all trying to kill him and eat him.
Drugs are bad, okay?
So he panicked and ran out of the house to retrieve his handgun from his vehicle. Police officer Terry Kurtz wrote an arrest affidavit. Once at the car, he grabbed the weapon and loaded in live rounds into his chamber. When his wife came outside and opened the passenger door, Wolf turned and fired the gun. Sadly, her injuries were too severe and paramedics were unable to save her. After shooting, Wolf panicked and drove to his brother's house, who subsequently called the police. It remains unclear exactly what placed him into such an extreme state of paranoia that he believed his wife and friends planned to eat him. Whatever the case, it's likely that he now faces a very lengthy prison sentence.
Drugs are bad, okay?
That's my guess. I hate to go there, but yeah.
I've got
It's
a
sad,
theory. I'm not sure that this kind of stuff doesn't have something to do with like possession of some kind.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I definitely think there's a degree of that going on here too. Oh, don't get me wrong. I just think usually on top of that is drug use that opens that doorway up huge for these things to take over and do horrible things.
Schizoid,
I think that's part of everyday life that people don't realize. Anyways,
Drugs are bad, okay?
Let's move on to more bizarre human behavior. It's not aliens. It's not humans. It's aliens. Aliens blamed for bizarre Las Vegas murder. It wasn't humans this time. It was aliens. Trust me on this. I'm gonna read this from Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast. Is this Tim? I think it is. Doesn't say. Doesn't say who the author of this one is, but it's from Coast to Coast. This is a cheaper article. This one's a little too long. Las Vegas man arrested for murder told authorities that he committed the dastardly deed at the behest of aliens. Now it's aliens. The weird incident reportedly occurred last Wednesday when Timothy Sharang La allegedly shot and killed his father, Yun Jin La. Cops investigating the case quickly took into custody, and upon questioning the man, received a rather strange explanation for his actions. According to police, Law claimed that the aliens had told him to kill his father. We'll get to what I talked about last week. This accused murderer went on to assert that the shooting was an act of benevolence because the individuals that he shot was actually an otherworldly worker who was wearing the skin of his father's face in a fashion that Lee likened to being tortured. The man also mused to police that he felt like he was on a different planet, which he seemed to suggest that perhaps he was experiencing a mental health episode. I think so. That was likely to be addressed at some point in the future, as Lee was arrested for the murder with a preliminary hearing set for later this month. What did I talk about last week? About, I don't think this is related. I don't. But Tim Burchett just said this about the whole news Nation segment with Jacob Barber and the psionics. I don't know if you've seen that, Tex. About he's like, I think people are summoning demons. I don't think they should be doing what they're doing, that psionics thing. I'm really concerned. He even says Jake Barber could be a plant. You know what? I'm kind of with Tim Purgett. I am not like, I'm open to the idea that there could be good aliens and stuff like that. I am very much open to that idea. But I think, like I said last week, you're going to have a bad time. I think if you go and do any of that and try to contact aliens. This guy did. He might have a mental problem. That's probably what it is. But we have a lot of people with mental health conditions and mental health problems, and we have a lot of people under a lot of stress economically and all that, and a whole government and media that completely lies all the time, so nobody knows what to believe or trust anymore, and we're being doped up with all kinds of different drugs and toxins in our food. We're creating monsters, people. Be careful.
Yeah, I don't think, when we open ourselves up on anything, we've got to be careful.
You got muted. Not muted, but muffled. You there,
Did I
Tex?
really?
Oh, yeah, it was like muffled, whatever you were saying.
I
I don't know if
Am I
it's just
good
something.
now?
Yeah, I hear you fine. I was just saying
Okay.
that last part was like, it was weird. It was totally muffled out.
That's strange.
Like, doesn't want you to talk.
Right? Doesn't want me to get the truth out there.
Man, I'm telling you, it happens. We'll
But
continue
I
that
think-
thought. Continue that thought, though.
I think that when we open ourselves up, we've got to be so careful, because when we try to contact anything, on the heels of what you said, as far as I don't care if it's paranormal, cryptid, UFO, whatever. If you're trying to contact anything out there and communicate with it, you better be careful.
You might have
really-
a bad time. You're going to
Yeah.
have a bad time. That's what I think.
Yeah, because you don't know.
You don't know what you're messing with. Don't do it. If your life is good and all that, like, yeah, I would like to talk to an alien. I saw ET. It seemed like it was, phone home. Good stuff, good time. Maybe you're right. Maybe there are some good ones. But you literally, you're opening yourself up to anything to come through. And that's what Ouija boards, we do. I will admit, we have our nights where we'll have some fun with some spirit box apps and stuff on that. Take it as it may. But we keep things pretty jolly and joyful. And we don't ever try to, purposely reach out to anything. Sometimes
Right.
aliens. We'll see. We joke. But I don't suggest to anyone to do it at home and do it all the time at all, really, honestly. But I know people that do it all the time. I don't know. I just don't think it's recommended. But on to more alien things. Maybe alien, maybe not related to alien. I don't know. They said it didn't exist, and then they admitted it exists, and then now earthquake has reportedly hit secretive Area 51 base in Nevada. Situated around 83 miles northwest of Las Vegas, Nevada desert. Yeah, blah, blah, we know all that. It wasn't until 2013 when declassified CIA files published that the U.S. Air Force officially acknowledged Area 51. Yeah, but we can get all past all that. This week, let's get to this part. This week, the space became the focus of renewed attention following reports of seismic activity within the vicinity, prompting conspiracy theories to speculate on whether or not this could be related to what's going on inside. According to the United States Geological Survey, USGS, the 2.8 magnitude earthquake, which was felt in Las Vegas, was considered around 32 miles southeast of Beatty, or 60 miles from the base. In all likelihood, especially given how seismically active Nevada actually is, a particular earthquake was almost certainly the result of natural tectonic movements. But I wonder, we talk about all the underground installations that have been claimed to be there at Area 51. What was going on? How did that affect them? Did something... I don't know. But what's really bad? And this is a side note. I don't have a picture of the article, but go look up. Remember what really got the Area 51 exposed is when workers sued the U.S. government in the 90s because of the radiation. Because what it was really going on at Area 51, I think alien stuff for sure, but it was a toxic waste dump for the DOD. For dark projects that they didn't want the Congress or the treaties that we've signed with the world to know about the toxic waste for stuff that we're doing. And now, once again, how many years later? It was in the 90s that happened. Here we are in 2025. We got more soldiers now suing the government that were working there. And their government's denied they were there. They're literally denying benefits and help to veterans to keep this place. It's not even secret anymore because they're liable. They've broken treaties. There's no EPA on this, man. It is a toxic waste dump out there at Groom Lake. Don't go out there. Trust me. not about aliens. You just don't want your skin to fall off.
Yeah.
Dude, you know it because one of the UFO Hunter shows or something like that did a really good episode where they went out to the mines that are around that area. And the government went and bought up those mines. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're dumping all the dirt from the underground installations they have to dig out into those mines.
I think that's part of what's at Skinwalker Ranch, too.
But what's underground? Is it secret alien bases, or is it just lots of toxic dump waste that they don't ever want to report to anybody? I don't know.
They got to put it somewhere.
They got to put it somewhere, and they don't want to let the world know. Yeah, we're trying to hey, North Korea, you'd better not do any nuclear. You can't do the nuclear stuff. We're totally dumping toxic waste in the earth.
See, we don't need to spend a whole lot of money on bombs. We just box up all of our dirty stuff and drop it.
Right? Kill billions with that.
Yeah.
Trust me, they probably have that as a plan. All right, let's move on to what did I have next? Oh, yeah, this ongoing. So, we talked, I think last week or the week before, if I can get the damn article to come up. Is it not going to let me? Here we go. About the difference in the new administration and the previous administration, and I hate both political parties and both sides, so let's not get into that. But the difference of, how one said we don't know what they are when it comes to the drones over New Jersey or really everywhere. They're not a threat and they're not a foreign threat, but we don't know what they are. And then the Trump administration, we know what they are. They're not a threat. They're not a foreign adversary. They were doing research. Then this comes out. NORAD commander says hundreds of drone incursions were detected at U.S. military installations. General Gregory Juliet revealed more details at a Senate Armed Service Committee hearing about widespread recent incidents that highlighted the problem. The Pentagon needs more technologically expand its authority to deal with large numbers of incursions over U.S. military installations by small unmanned aerial systems. The commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, Northcom Chief General Gregory Juliet revealed more details Thursday about the widespread recent incidents that highlighted the drone problem. How's it a problem if you knew what they were and they were all approved by the FAA? Right? That's what this administration said.
Well, what I don't understand is what the DOD or DOJ or something. I can't remember which one it was. When they put that article out, they said, we don't know where they're coming from. We don't know who's flying them. We don't know what they're up to. And then in the same paragraph, they said,
right,
but we know that they don't pose a threat.
Right. And my question then,
they can eat it too.
Yeah, okay, if you don't know what they are, then you don't know they're not a threat.
Right.
Every common sense person hearing you talk right now knows that, right? That's BS answer. And then the new Trump administration is that we know what they are. They are flying, that they have FAA approval, and they're doing research is also bull crap answer, because what's the research? And then why are there incursions and police response to places over like nuclear facilities and military installations that generals and governors and people got really upset about?
Right.
I'm just, both answers are bull crap, I told you we censor here, but that, I'll say it bullshit. That's what it is. I'm sorry. That is. I'm just saying, disclosure my butt. And when Tim Burchett says that Jacob Barber might be a plant, I was really fascinated by that News Nation interview with him. But I thought the same thing. Like, what if you are planting this whole, the Project Bluebeam scenario, where we're going to fake an alien invasion. But I think you'd be working in some sense with some real aliens on this.
I like the guy here in Florida that shot one down, and then they came and arrested him and said,
"Oh yeah,
$10,000 worth of damage to a drone." Wait a minute,
yeah.
You said you didn't know whose drones they were. How do you know it was $10,000 worth of damage?
Right, exactly. They know.
Crap.
Well, I'll tell you what, you fly one over my backyard, see what happens.
Yeah, it's your airspace, man.
They
will arrest you.
I'm going to practice dove hunting. I'll guarantee you that.
They will arrest you, or you shot an alien ship and they're going to abduct you. And then next thing you know, you're getting butt probed in a bad time.
Well, I've already got
we're not advocating for people to shoot drones on this show. I'm just saying I'm not responsible for anything that happens to you if you do. I'm not advocating for that. Your airspace, I get it. But I'm not, I am not responsible for the consequences of anybody who does that. But you know, people have. There was a fake video going around of somebody, like they made a fake one. Remember, it showed. I was like, this is fake. You know, like they made it look like they were shooting at a drone. I'm like, well, like great, because that's going to give people real ideas to do it. I don't want anybody to do that. I hope you don't have to do that. You know, I like the lady. I didn't get to cover it, Jamie. We should. We gotta. If we do another open lines, we should cover. I want to talk about the lady. I'm trying to find out. Maybe you can help me get her on the show. The lady, the mom in California that drove up to the private airport at 1:30 a.m. to, you know, tell them please stop spraying chemtrails over our house. Like she's done all this research and tracked them. We need to talk about that on the show eventually. We got one more thing really quick. I don't have time to read the article, but I will mention this. I think it's really interesting. 9,000-year-old six-fingered shaman woman discovered near Jerusalem. And we've talked about the six finger and the phylum, going back to, you know, there's a lot of this through multiple cultures, ancient history. You know, I'm a big Ancient Aliens fan on this. What I want to know is how tall was she? I can't find that out. I'm really interested to know how tall she was. I'm just saying, six fingers. Was she also a little extra tall? I'm just wondering. Be interesting to know what the DNA was. Yeah, did she have red hair? I don't get any of that information.
Could just be an extra little pinky or something.
She had six fingers, I think, on both hands, is what I'm reading here. So that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird tonight. Tex here. Wesson is our guest. We're going to talk to him after this short commercial break. And later in the show, we'll also open the phone lines. Call in tonight, because we'll be talking about Dogman, Bigfoot, paranormal experiences, all that, all the above. It's definitely a great Paranormal Soup guest tonight. Thank you to Josh Kern from Paranormal Roundtable for helping us find guests lately. We need them, and this is a really good one, so don't miss out. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
You were brought here for one purpose, necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please.
And death to the living. Necromancy. Starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without a symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got a medallion for you. Don't forget, Every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 555.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Tex Wesson. Tex is a seasoned cryptid and paranormal field investigator with multiple up-close and personal encounters under his belt. He is the creator and host of Tex's Front Porch YouTube channel. The Porch team has amassed some of the best physical evidence of cryptids to come out of the field in years. Tex travels the country speaking at conferences and has been featured in the Dogman Triangle documentary on Coast to Coast Radio. Also, we're going to talk later tonight. Remind me, Tex will get that information out. He's going to be at Crossing Realms Conference September 19th and 20th in Missouri. We'll get that information, links out to you as well. We'll also take your phone calls later in the show, so hang in there if you want to talk to our guest, Tex Wesson, tonight. We got a lot to get to. Let's go ahead and roll into the show. Thank you for joining us here tonight, Tex. Especially, Josh got a hold of you, last minute. I used to have people booked up for months, and I lately have not had a lot of luck getting guests. And I know, being Josh mentioned so many people. I'm like trying to write down names, and he definitely mentioned you a lot. So I'm really honored for you to come on the show tonight.
Well, I'm happy you invited me. It's an honor, man. And me and Josh go back a few years, and I like him a lot. He's always been good to me, and it's
he's a bigger than life kind of guy, man. I'm saying,
he's like a little brother.
Yeah. But he's so smart. He's so smart, and he's had so many experiences. That, like I said, he doesn't probably see himself that way, but I do. He's like, he's like a kind of like a superhero.
Yeah. I spoke at his Dogman conference he had down here in Fort Worth, and it was. I see some questions in chat. Yeah, I was on Coast to Coast Radio, but I've got some names I'll throw you. My whole team would be on.
Oh yeah, man. I need guests, man. And one of the reasons is, and we're not to talk too much about me. We're gonna get into you tonight, but one of the reasons is I've had a lot of people and a pretty open door for guests, and I had a lot of self-help kind of guru kind of people on, which are good. Some are really good people and interesting, but I want to get more into encounters and experiences and talk to people, more about that. I've been doing the show 10 years. And so I'm looking for more, and Josh knows my fascination. I have never had a cryptid experience. I don't consider myself an expert of any kind. I don't think there are, but even close to it at all into the Dogman or Bigfoot or cryptid territory. But I'm super interested and trying to always been getting more guests on about Dogman or callers. Heather, you're out there tonight. I know she's had some Dogman stuff going on, and Bigfoot too. I've had some really good shows on Bigfoot, but Dogman is more of a newer thing, very popular. I don't know. We talked about this last week with Josh and Abe. Have you noticed all the werewolf movies coming out?
Yep.
Something's going on. I don't know. So with you, if I remember from what Josh told me, this all kind of started with a Dogman experience, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it did, and I say it all the time. I wish that I had seen a dead gum Bigfoot because it'd been a hell of a lot easier to explain.
I like Harry and Henderson's too. Maybe it'd be nice.
Because mine took place when I was 16, and I'm old enough to fart dust, but it it was before the term Dogman even was coined.
Right.
So I didn't know anything but to call it but a werewolf. But it was up close and personal, and it was I was coming home from hunting, and it was still daylight. The sun hadn't went down yet, and I'm walking down a gravel road, and I'm just about to you put me on solo stuff,
Oh yeah, you're fine. Sorry.
You don't want to scare your audience off. But I was just about to cross over our fence and cut across our property and make a beeline to the house, And I had a couple of rabbits hang off my belt, and this thing come out of the brush on my left-hand side about 25, 30 feet in front of me and ran across the road and mid-stride turned its head and snarled at me and then dove over our barbed wire fence and went down to all fours and disappeared in the grass, the long grass. And I mean, it was an underwear changing moment, folks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 16 years old on a dark, lonely road. This is Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for a 45-year-old here, that would be a pants changing moment. Okay, so I want to get into this a little bit because I'm so fascinated with there's different descriptions of Dogman. And I don't think that disqualifies anything. I think there's a lot of things going on here we don't understand. So this is in Texas. What part roughly of Texas were you?
It's about an hour west of Fort Worth.
Okay. All right. So, and you said let me get this right. It was at dusk.
Yeah, the sun was working on going down, but it was still up. So it's plenty of light.
So my interest is, so try to delve in. What did it look like? What are some of the details of what this thing looked like?
Well, at the time, I thought it was about 6.5 feet tall, but it turned out it was a little taller than that. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like covered in shaggy hair or nothing. It was like it was thin, but it was long. It hung down about this far on the.
Did it hang off the arms?
Yeah, about 4 or 6 inches off the arms and stuff, and until you came to like behind its ears and then down its back in a triangle, it was like a mane. And at the time, that's what I called it. It had a mane, right?
Yeah.
But after I got, many, many, many years in the future, when I got to talking to people about it, when I came out of the closet about it, it turns out they normally have a hump on their back, kind of like a grizzly bear. And, but it was, and I don't remember it having a tail. When I draw it, I don't draw it with a tail, so I don't think it did. But
if you don't remember it, it's not a detail you obviously caught in your mind's eye.
Right.
You saw it,
And I remember a lot of detail about it, so I don't think it had a tail.
What was the skin color?
It was like a dark charcoal gray, or black, and the hair was like black description. And silver.
This is definitely black and silver in the hair. Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Can I ask what it smelled like? Could you smell it?
Yeah, was there any smell?
I didn't smell anything that I remember, but I've the whole Bigfoot smelling thing. I've only caught whiffs of that out in the field, but it didn't put off that sense of dread, that dogman sickness that everybody talks about. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was scared, but I didn't.
But you didn't feel like the overwhelming. You've heard the descriptions, right? You're talking about people get this pressure and overwhelming, and even they can't even respond to the fight or flight. They're frozen.
Yep. And in fact, Monica Rollins, which some of you may know her from Monster Quest, she's one of the co-hosts on my channel. She had a dogman experience and had that evil dread feeling, come off of it.
Yeah, I'd love to have her on the show too. Yeah, she's really cool. I love
Oh, yeah.
Monster Quest.
Oh yeah.
I've watched every episode. My
yeah,
kids
I
love
hope-
this stuff. My kids love this stuff, by the way. Like
Yeah.
Dead and Ghost and all that stuff. They're interested. We're very open in our household and all that. But man, the stuff that they end up like getting into is Bigfoot, Dogman especially, and Goatman. It's like some of these kids and cryptids. Maybe that's why there's all these werewolf movies happening. But I feel like there's something in the maybe there's more sightings, or maybe more people are now talking about like experiences like you had that are real. Go look at the artwork done back in the Renaissance and medieval times. You see depictions of these men. You're these wolf men.
Mhm.
You have belief of the whole werewolf thing through different cultures across the world that had no contact with each other. There's something here about changelings. I've been fascinated with the idea of. See, you said that there's dogmen. You didn't know that word back then. Nobody didn't, right?
Yeah.
And that's the new thing. It's dogman. I'm still stuck on the werewolf changeling thing.
See,
I'm fascinated with it. Have you ever read Carlos Castaneda's Don Juan?
no, I never have.
Well, if he was true telling his story, which I don't think all of it's true, but maybe it is. He's an anthropologist that studied with the Yaqui Indian, sorcerer. And a lot of it was the first book that Don Juan is them doing peyote, mescaline, and stuff. But it was all about him learning how to become this Yaqui, this medicine guy, or sorcerer. And he's about changelings, about changing.
Right.
That's what he's getting into. And there's so much of this through so many different cultures. This idea of changelings, and that, to me, the sighting you had, right? We'll get into this. I think there might be more. I don't know, but. Were there others who saw this in the same vicinity area?
I had a few years after this happened, I was out with some buddies, and we sitting around drinking some beer and everything, and we was telling weird stories. And one of my buddies got real quiet. And after we kind of, broke up and we were walking around and stuff. And I said, "Hey man, so you all right?" He goes, "I saw something." And I'm like, "What'd you see?" And he tells a story. And this guy's law enforcement now, and he was special ops and Army and everything. But he tells the story of when he was driving home one night and something ran up out of a field up beside his car and kept pace with him and looked in his passenger side window. But the way he described his was that skinny, gaunt looking thing. It was almost hellhoundish type thing. So it was different than mine, but it was kind of in the same.
See, I've had a fascination. My biggest fascination is hellhounds, but
Oh yeah.
I think yes. But so it's similar to yours, but it's that same general area in the same time period.
Yep.
That's interesting. So so there's a lot of theories we're working with here when it comes to Dogman, and that's all they can be. How we prove any of this? Is it a walk-in phenomenon from another dimension? Is it my theory of changelings, shapeshifters, or is it a physical creature we've just not identified?
See, and I've been doing research, field research for, almost a decade now, actively looking for these critters. And, you study it a lot, you talk to a lot of people. And I really, really have a problem with the whole shape-shifting thing. It being a physical transformation. Because the human body and the human mind, I don't think could stand up to that. Not in if it took place like we see in the movies, minutes, some of them depicted, happening over, a month or, whatever. But go ahead.
What if it's an astral projection?
Well, see, it could be. I don't know. It could be something that is able to invade our mind and make us see what it wants us to see.
I have one other theory too. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. So those are the first three are the main ones that everybody kind of like goes back and forth. I have a theory, and it connects two cases as an example. There's Skinwalker Ranch and the Bell Witch. Are you familiar? Okay. I'm sure you're familiar with Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, I know you know what that is, but do you know the Bell Witch story? So both those scenes I always found curious. My mom, when I was a kid, had told me about the Bell Witch. I don't remember how she knew or whatever, mentioned it, and I've always been fascinated by it. But the way that whole experience started out for that family was the father and son were hunting in a field, and they encountered a beast in the field that scared them. They shot at it, ran, right? And then all this psychokinetic activity started and focused around the father and the daughter, right? We're not going to get a whole Bell Witch. Fascinating, and a lot of urban legend tied to it, I'm sure. Like Andrew Jackson, I think, is an urban legend, supposedly was there shot at. I don't think that happened. But it's really fascinating. Something happened there. And was it Tennessee? Then you have Skinwalker Ranch. And how does that start? It starts with a beast, a father and son, seeing it, trying to take one of their cattle out of a pen, like grabbing it by its leg and pulling it. And then all this craziness ensues. So partly my theory is that, what is a beast in the field, or these creatures? If you go back to ancient man, to our primitive nature, if there's something that's otherworldly, parasitic in a sense, feeds off our fears.
Right.
Primitive man, what would you go to get that fear right away from man? A beast, a threat, an animal threat. If this is something like the Bogart in Harry Potter, the thing you put in the closet, and the kids stand in front of it, and it comes out as their worst fear, this is what that thing would be. And then it morphs, and it develops into new things as it pulls in more of that energy from people being aware of it. It got you with that its primitive instincts of fear and beast, and now it's got your attention, and now it's got more power, and now it can do more things. It's kind of like my feet. I don't know if I'm hitting any marks on this, but that's what I feel like something could be like that going on.
That's just it. We can't write off anything.
Right.
I don't care what theory you have. We can't write it off because we don't know. Now, a lot of people believe that they have the answer, but there's a difference between believing in something and knowing. Okay. Take yourself, for example. You never had a cryptid encounter, but you believe. I've had cryptid encounters. I know. Okay. But there again, I also question my own dadgum sanity.
Oh, I know.
At times.
Right there with my paranormal and UFO stuff. I know. Especially when you get in the alien abduction thing.
Yeah. And I've had there was a time loss incident that I had when I was out in the field, doing cryptid investigations, and lost several hours, and I was not alone when this happened. There's film footage of it. I mean, it's
really.
Oh yeah.
I've had a couple investigators on here have had related to Bigfoot, or at least in areas where Bigfoot is around, and in a sense the whole area is kind of like a weird place, have that time loss.
It's a strange phenomenon, and I don't know if I walked away with a golden probe award or what happened. That's what I'm told, that I was abducted. I don't want to be that guy. I honestly do not. I'm struggling with that one.
I've been in now for a few years. In a sense, I still don't know what happened with me on a camping trip and other experiences I've had. And I wrote it off for years. And I'll tell you what, I swear I'm wired to look away from it, even though I've been into all this stuff and interested in it since my earliest memories. Part of me is wired to look away from these things that have happened.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to look at that. Don't ask about that. No, it's just a dream.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about that when I read a book called Instant Devil's Dead by Terry Lovelace. You should read it. He's not doing interviews anymore, but he's an alien abductee with a lot of evidence, and he brought my mind open to that idea in a sense. It brought up some stuff, stirred some stuff up, and it might, if with you, I don't know.
Very, very possible, you know, and I know that I have the option of being, you know, hypnotized and bringing it all out and all that. My problem is I don't trust anybody rooting around in my head like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did a past life regression. It's the closest I've come. With Chris Lee does it as like kind of a therapeutic thing that can actually help with ailments and stuff like that. It's really cool. Thank you, Slim Jimmy, for the $9.99 super chat. Yes, I should mention this. You know, I'm horrible at promoting, but yes, super chats, guys, and YouTube memberships and Patreon does help pay for the show bills. Thank you, Jimmy. But all this, you know, all these different theories, all these things floating around, like what it is, like you said, there's nothing we can do to do it. All we can do is kind of collect the data of these experiences. And that's why we have to keep talking about this. For the time slips, you know, like I said, this happened to other investigators. Where were you and how did this time slip phenomenon happen?
Well, I was down in my research area with another fellow, and we went down. It was down in the river bottoms on the Red River. We've been there countless times, and he had been. It was fairly early in the game for me, so I didn't know the place as well as he did. But he'd been down there for years, and he knew the place, according to him, like the back of his hand. We'd went down in a place, like I said, we'd been, you know, numerous times. And it was, we got there about 8:30 in the morning. We started walking down in the bottoms. And we had to pick his kids up from the bus at like 3:30. So we kind of figured, well, you know, we'll walk around till about lunch, and then we'll go have lunch, then we'll go pick up the kids, you know, that type of thing. We started getting hungry. And so, well, let's turn around and go back, you know. Somehow we passed the trail that went up to the truck, and it was clearly freaking marked. I mean, but we went past it, and we didn't notice it until we had passed it by like a quarter of a mile. And we was like, man, did we pass that? And it's like, well, yeah, I think we did. Let's turn around and go back. And that's all there was to it. So we went back and we found it. We, found it, no problem with the truck. When we got back to the truck, it was like 4:30 in the afternoon. And we didn't check any clocks or anything. I purposely don't check my clock when I'm out walking around. I don't care, okay, what time it is. I really don't. I try to turn my phone off.
Live in the moment. Live in the moment, baby.
Exactly. I'm out there to enjoy nature. I'm not out there to, you know,
yeah,
I don't want my phone.
No clocks. No.
So we kind of blew it off just like we lost track of time. Well, then he was reviewing the footage of what he took and the important thing to know is we never left each other's hip the whole time. Okay. Now he had a little Sony camcorder and everything. And if any of you know, when you're recording digitally, when you stop and start, the files are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, but you know, that kind of thing. When he loaded it up to look at the footage, the files were all jumbled around.
That's weird.
And there was part of the footage where somebody or something had gotten a hold of the camera and was moving very quickly through the bottoms that we were in, and it would turn 360 and neither one of us were there.
So something's like recording it running with the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Like on foot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you hear footsteps?
Yeah. I mean, somebody or something is running with the camera.
Do they sound scared? Do you hear breathing?
No, nothing like that. Just, I mean, because, well, there's a bunch of dry leaves. It was, you know, a bunch of background noise. So I'm talking about this experience, and that's when we really started talking about what really happened. We don't remember any of this, but we didn't have any ill effects from it or nothing like that. We very seldomly talked about it privately, much less publicly. We would mention it every once in a while because honestly, it kind of freaked both of us out.
Right.
Well, I was on Rob's show, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and he was interviewing me about this time loss. And there was two people in the chat, and they had seen, according to them, they had seen other footage. They knew this guy, and they'd seen other footage from this trip. And this footage, according to them, showed the camera hitting the ground and him running off.
Who's him?
The other guy that was with me.
Oh, so it was him. Yes, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. So
I want to say thank you, King, for the $3.50 donation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Y'all keep it coming, man. And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of this until I was doing Rob's show and they brought it up in chat.
Oh my God.
You know, and it rattled me. It was a whole new thing I had to wrap my mind around. You know, well then I was on Spaced Out Radio, and Danielle Diva was the one of the hosts, and I had mentioned, I had a time loss incident just like that in passing, and she stopped me right there, and she said, "This is what I'm picking up." She's a psychic medium. This is what I'm picking up. You were abducted and all this kind of stuff. Well, what she didn't know is that I had Jessica Jones remote view it months earlier, and she had told me the same thing. So I don't know. I mean,
did they tell you what you were abducted by, or any info on that?
Aliens.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, which species? We're talking about a lot. It seems like involved.
Grays.
I'm serious in that question.
Grays.
I mean, like if they're able to, I know remote viewing's not 100%. You can't be gone.
Yeah.
They're just getting like details of what they're getting from the their ability, but makes you want to see. So like that's what I want you when you first say that you guys there's this camera footage you're like running. I'm thinking in my mind, is this like, did you guys like record yourselves by running from something, running from being abducted? I mean, like, you're talking about you didn't have no ill effects. For my friend Terry Lovelace, he was in Arkansas, Devil's Den. And when him and his buddy were abducted, it was severe ill effects to the point that they ended up they were both Air Force and they were on a camping trip, ended up in the military hospital. And OSI ended up investigating him because they literally came in there with radiation poisoning. So that's what I'm saying. If you see a UFO, people, you should do the running thing. Don't go near it. Don't touch it.
Right.
A lot of people do have ill effects, but maybe these were the good ones. I don't know. My experience, I wasn't ill. I was on a camping trip in Red River Gorge, Kentucky, and I went to sleep with my boots on because I was like, if I have to run out of this tent, because we're like miles from any civilization, I want my boots on, and that's how I'd always sleep. And I woke up, flipped around, boots off, and from a dream where I was floated up out of my tent, and my thought in my mind at that point was they found me. That's what I remember. And this big bright light behind me, and I could see the forest floor, and not much else I can remember. And then when I woke up like that, my friend was gone, found him out on a cliff, and it was the early morning, sun was just starting to rise, and this huge bright light shot up out of the fog, out of the forest floor. I'm like, what the hell is that? And it was like dead quiet. And That's it. That's all I had. Now, I also saw a UFO when I was 16, a year or two before that, with a few friends that never the next day seemed to recall it, but I could. And it flew over our heads, maybe 400 or 500 feet above Michigan City where I live, downtown, silent, huge, so big it convinced me there's no way that's our military. I mean, if they have that, they definitely got 0-point energy. Maybe now was our military. I don't know. But it didn't look like it. It had no lights, and it was just rectangular, and just went right over our heads. That's the thing. But I've had these weird dreams. I've had stuff like that, and like you said, it's like, do you trust? I don't. It's not that I don't trust. I think hypnosis and regression could be good to help somebody get this, but I don't know if you can totally trust the information or not. After doing it a little bit, it's just like I'm not trying to judge. For the past life thing, it was all right. It's like if it's real, it's not. If it cures your ailment, then good. Who cares if it's real or not? That was Chris Lee's take on it. But when it comes to alien abduction, I don't want to put a false narrative into my mind.
No.
I want to just know the truth.
I mean, I was told they were grays. I was told that they abducted me to enhance me. I don't know.
Are you Tex the $1 million man? No,
Yeah.
The thing is, one of those dreams I wrote off. I've told this. I know all these stories a billion times on my show. You came here to hear Tex, but real quick is that I was in my 20s and super sick. I smoked 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day back in the day. It was so awful, and I was super sick. Felt like I was gonna die, and went to bed that night. And I had this dream where I was having this tube forced down my throat, and this thing talking to me in my head, telling me to calm down and showing me what they were doing, which was filling my lungs full of this fluid and cleaning it out and chiding me for smoking. The next morning I woke up, I was cured.
Wow.
But I wrote it off. I never looked at it again. And let's talk about a kid that had like X-Files on box set. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I wouldn't look at my own experiences like that. It's just a dream, you know? Even my shadow person experience, which was undeniable. I mean, I was levitated up off my bed, attacked by this thing. Makes me wonder, is it alien related? Because it all started to happen, months later after that camping trip.
Well, is it? You can flip the script on that. Is the aliens demon related?
Right. Like this gets back to the whole psionics thing with Jimmy Barber. Do you really want to be going out there and trying to make telepathic communication with these things?
Yeah. And see, that's it worries me to the fact that when we're even talking about, mind speak with Bigfoot, how do you know it's Bigfoot?
Yeah. Or, there's people who have had the mind speak with Dogman too.
I know. And I've said this 1,000 times. I've got friends that I love and respect that have this going on. And I don't doubt that they do. That's not the point. And I don't question their faith. Okay. Because that comes up a lot. But it's a legitimate concern of mine on how do you know who and what you're communicating with.
Right. Like I love Whitley Strieber. Look at, Whitley Strieber wrote Communion, and very like traumatic kind of experiences he was going through early on, but then he gets into this whole like communication and it's open and it's much more spiritual, and that's great for Whitley. But to this day, I don't know who you're talking to, man. Right. Do you trust them? They took you by force. I don't trust that. Now they're your friend. I don't know. Yeah. You took me by force. I don't think we're ever going to be friends.
Well, and we were talking about this on my channel not long ago. It's like, why all the secrecy? Because there are so many people out there. Well, why do you got to erase the memories and everything? There are so many people out there that if these aliens would just ask them, hey, you want to come aboard ship? We're going to do some medical tests on you, blah, blah, blah.
No, you want to go aboard ship? We're going to do some butt stuff. You ever seen that shirt? Come take a ride. Let's do some butt stuff. Like, no, thank you. I had a friend, he's passed away. His name was Kevin Malik, and he told me one of his experiences was in his house. He saw this glowing orb, like orange orb or something, come down in the field. And he's an investigator, and somebody who's really serious, was really smart, and he went and hid behind his couch. And I'm like, you smart man. And like, he did not want, as all of his fascinations with it, it scared the hell out of him because he knew the history. Like, don't touch these things. Don't get near them.
Well, and you bring up the Orbs situation, and everybody's, well, not everybody, a lot of people are talking about what's the connection with the Orbs and the Bigfoot, or Orbs, Bigfoot and other,
and Dogman and
form of energy or whatever. And I've had 2 orb experiences. One of them you couldn't see with your naked eye, and we caught on thermal. And there was 4 of us watching this thing. So, and it moved with intelligence. I walked towards it and it moved away from me. I walked back and it followed me right back. Mm. I mean, so, but that was, that followed, I mean, that preempted a Bigfoot sighting minutes later.
Really?
Yeah.
So what entailed with the Bigfoot sighting after you see, what color was the orb?
We don't know. We couldn't see it with our naked eye. It only
that's right. Right, you're getting it on camera. Was it a night vision?
No, it was a thermal camera.
Thermal signature you're getting.
Yeah, and it was hot. I mean, it was a big ball of black, and it undulated like a bubble in a lava lamp. and it was hovering about a foot, maybe 18 inches off the ground, and it was about that big around.
Wouldn't it be cold if it was
No,
clear?
black. Well, it depends on
Black-
depends on what you got the camera set up.
It set it to, so it was extremely hot though.
Yeah.
So it's like something to do with plasma, and there's a lot of experiments happening right now with using radio frequency and plasma for making like a transmittable, like wireless power system. Like we're talking Tesla,
Yeah.
Like he knew there was something up with the whole energy system of the Earth, and that there's a lot of things I think our U.S. government has known about that since his death.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think why did the Department of Energy and the DOD and what's that billionaire's name that got involved that bought it at a time? A couple of them have, but Bigelow get so interested in Skinwalker Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's their interest in it? What did the Department of Energy spend so much time and resources on? I'm sure Doge would have a lot of, I'm saying, but what did they do? Why? I would love to know. Curious mind, especially Department of Energy. What were they really looking at?
Yep.
And I think a lot of it goes back to what Tesla knew.
Well, why don't we have these Tesla coils that are sitting around the country that are armed guarded? There's one down by Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
Why does all of them sit on top of a water table?
You start getting into weather control too with this. But there's something they know that they going back to what they've done with HARP, and there's a lot of things that I think they're using and doing, that are, in general scientific knowledge is not discussed or known.
Oh, absolutely.
The general public.
And that goes with cryptids and the whole 9 yards.
Right.
You're talking to a skeptic, and what's the first question you ask? Well, how come we don't have any bodies? We do. We do have bodies.
They covered it up. Yeah. Hello, Josh.
Hey, man.
Hey, little brother.
What's going on, guys?
I mean, we got Freedom of Information Act that shows that the FBI have investigated Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so why? If it's just hooey pooey, not real, why did the FBI in the 1970s investigate Bigfoot?
Yeah, but you look at the report, and the only thing it says is, all the hair they found was bogus. But
yeah,
I don't buy that.
Yeah, no, I think it goes a lot deeper than the FBI. I think. We're talking the deep dark programs, super soldier programs, and all this other stuff we got into the other night, Josh. That's going on here. When you get into these things, what do they want to know? The David Pilates, I always butcher his name, but the missing 411. What's the connection with missing people? Pilates, do some Pilates with David Pilates.
Everybody calls him that.
Your abs will go missing just like the people. Let's go. No, that's why that guy's never coming on my show now.
Well, the thing about it is, and back to the Dogman thing. The young woman that I first shared my encounter with, Danielle Stedman, she took a report from somebody that he supposedly worked for the government, and said there was a Dogman facility in, I think it was South Africa, that they had several of these things that they were working on, growing, however you want to look at it. Well, they escaped, and they wiped out an entire village before they could neutralize them. So, and it's like...
When was the period of time this would have happened? Do you know? They say
this was... Let's see, I would have been... It was about 9 years ago when she put it out there.
Told you.
So I don't know exactly when it was supposed to happen.
A lot of evil things happening in South Africa. It's curious what the time of those evil, things going on, if that's any relation. Look, going back to World War One, where's the urban legend of the Hound of Mons Hill or something like that? Urban legend of this is before the Nazis. This is actually World War One. A German scientist creating some dog-like creature with the brain of a psychotic in it or something like that, and killing soldiers on the field. Is an urban legend from World War One. You know, like, and then the Nazis had interest in this. I mean, the super soldier program. If you were trying to make super soldiers and you found out there's people that have the ability to maybe change or have creatures like these that you could train or something, you know, you definitely would be interested.
It's funny you mentioned that about the South African thing, because I covered a story from South Africa, and I'm trying to remember what it was about. There was someone that had said that they were a security guard or something at a facility, and it was something similar to that, Tex, of what you're talking about, and that there was something there inside the facility, and it got out. Yeah, I remember that. And I can't remember the time frame. It's been so long since I covered that report. But I bet if I went back and looked, I could probably find some, because we just did one on South Africa a couple months back, and it was the Hive alien beings were in that crater. And it was an American contractor that was over there, and he met an Australian, and then there was a Zulu couple that were there. And it was like in the outskirts of Pretoria. And I'm trying to remember what that other one was, because that story was pretty crazy. And it involved a facility, and something that was in the facility had gotten loose. And I don't remember anything about them killing a village or anything like that, but I just remember that there was a dogman type creature. One of the things that happens in Africa, though, is the hyenas. They're kind of the substitute for the dog, wolf, whatever.
They're a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, you hear about hyena men, medicine men, you know.
Well, you know what, your description of your dog man, in my mind, the way the hair and everything kind of reminds me a little bit of a hyena. The way you talked about the mange and that. Somewhat.
You know, I get that a lot, but the color was off. I mean, it was
right. Not
black
saying you saw a
hyena,
silver. But
now,
the way the hair was.
The face really wasn't hyena like. It was, and it wasn't the pointed wolf snout either. It was a shorter, blunter snout. I saw a rendition a couple of nights ago that I was like, oh my gosh, that looks really like it. But there's a bust of a dogman, werewolf, whatever you want to call it, in Monster Mart. And it looks very close to what I saw. Very close.
The face I saw on the shadow person, what it made was like that, a blunt face kind of beast. Like they didn't have like the snout. It was like a blunt, like, you know, smash, not like a pug smash, you know, but it was like like a short snout, kind of bestial.
Yeah, it's. I don't know, that encounter set me back on my heels for almost a year.
You were 16.
Yeah. I didn't go out. I wouldn't even go, because my sister lived on the same property we did, just, you know, yards apart. And if I had to go from one house to the other, if it was dark, it was a dead run. And if when I went down to feed the livestock or whatever, I went loaded for bear. I didn't go camping. Wasn't going hunting. I wasn't going fishing. I didn't go anywhere by myself. And finally, I just got mad. I said that, you know, I almost felt like I was being bullied, you know, and I'm like, no, this ain't gonna cut it. And so I started taking baby steps, going out, you know, I'd camp around in the backyard and stuff, and we had a lot of acreage, and so I'd go out in one of our pastures and that type of thing, and I started going out further and further, and I finally started doing what I was doing. Well, I was going hunting in this place that I was coming from when I had my sighting, and I was just about to. There was a tree that had fallen over the fence that we hadn't got to take care of yet, and I would run up that tree and just jump over the fence. And this place was really thick. It was great, but I was just about to get up on the tree, and I heard what I thought was somebody walking around in the trees in the brush. It was so thick you couldn't see in it. And I hollered out. I said, "Hey, you know, who is that? You know?" And it stopped. And I said, "Hey, you know, say something, right?" And it just kind of like shifted its weight or took a little step, that type of thing. And there was a set of twins that lived on the other side of this property. They hunted it too, and I went to school with them. I knew them. I said, "Hey, David, Doug, is that one of y'all's? Let me know." And it shifted its weight again. And I said, "Look, if you don't say something, I'm going to shoot." And it didn't do nothing, but shifted its weight again. So I fired a round off up in the air, which turns out wasn't the smartest decision. This thing come busting through the brush, and I didn't even turn. I didn't even wait. I tucked tail and ran, and I never looked back. And I ran the whole way to the house, and that set me back a little bit, you know, but not quite as long, because the way I looked at it, this thing had 2 chances to kill me if it wanted to, and it never touched me. It scared the hell out of me, but it never touched me. And then, so I finally went back and I was doing what I was doing. Well, one night I was at home by myself. Parents were out of town, whatever. And it was just a horrendous storm, you know, and I love watching storms. Always have. And I'm looking out the kitchen window and I'm watching the, you know, storm and lightning and all this kind of stuff. And at the backside of our fence, there was a power pole standing there. And when the lightning flashed, it looked like there was something standing next to the pole.
Oh no.
And I'm like, what was that? So I'm looking at this thing whenever the lightning would flash, and it would change its stance. It would like lean against the pole, and it would stand there. And it's pouring cats and dogs, right? I'm like, what? You know, is somebody creeping on the house? What are they doing? You know? Well, I got scared. I went and got my dad's gun, loaded it up, and I got so scared I called a buddy of mine from school. Of course, he's like, "Well, you wimp, you know, blah, 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 blah," that type of thing. Yeah, I got better things to do, man. It's late. You know, you hung up the phone. But I continued to watch this thing. Well, I finally just passed out. I mean, you know. And I got up the next morning and I walked out there because I was going to see if I could see footprints or whatever.
You got muffled again. Something you do, or second time it's happening, you get muffled.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So I went looking out for footprints and everything, but it rained so hard, everything was washed away. Right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't see anything, but I really went out there to see if I was seeing, if my eyes were playing tricks on me, if there was a post next to the power pole, whatever. There wasn't. You know, a T-post is not going to look like that. Yeah. You know, but that was the last encounter with that, and I believe it was the same thing, because about a year before the first sighting, we'd had a dog come up missing, and the only way we found it is it started stinking. And I lived in a trailer house. Well, we found it was underneath the trailer house.
Oh no!
So I had to crawl in there and get it, and it looked like somebody had held it up by its front legs and just gutted it. And of course, you know, nothing had happened prior to that, right?
Right.
So I didn't know. Dad said, "Well, he probably got into it with a bobcat or whatever." You know, I'm like, "Okay, well, okay, sounds good to me. You know, I'll just go bury the dog." And we was always getting reports of, you know, a foal would get tore up, or the mare would get tore up, or, you know, the same thing with, you know, cow and a calf, or, you know, dogs that get tore up, that type of thing. And it got always blamed on either a big cat in the territory, which we had on occasion, or this pack of wild dogs that everybody talked about. Me and my friends, man, we hunted and camped all over that place. We never saw this mysterious pack of wild dogs that was killing everything. You know?
Right.
But yeah.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
When it was gutted, did they eat any of the guts, or were they just like left hanging out?
It was pretty much cleaned out, but I mean there was remnants of it.
I was gonna say,
Had enough left to let the
could
dog
do
crawl
that.
under the house. You know, you wonder, you know, the people we know that have dogman encounters survived, right? But, you know, the ones that don't, we wouldn't know. They're here. You know, you wonder, it seems like these things stalk people. A lot of these encounters are not sometimes just one fleeting encounter. They have, like yours, a couple or a few, like it stalks them for a while.
Yeah,
I mean, something demonic in a sense. Some people would say, that's trying to influence them. Maybe, my shadow person experience would linger outside windows and outside my own door or in my room. It feels very much like that kind of stalking. Same scenario. Are they stalking people for what's their intent? They kill animals and all that, or do they kill people? Are there some people that they get what they want? They get to stalk them to the point where they attack them, and then it's covered up. I don't know. Why stalk people?
There was a case 2 years ago in a place called Lipan, Texas, which is about 45 minutes from where I had my encounter. And there was a guy that he walked to work every day and he took a shortcut through the woods. Well, he went missing. Well, they found him. He was thrown over in the brush. He had scratches on his chest and stuff, and his throat was ripped out. Not cut, ripped out. Well, and you can look this up, it's in the papers. And this is, I think they make little slips every once in a while.
Right.
They, because the sheriff's deputy and dadgummit, it wasn't the corner. That little town didn't have a corner. Justice of the Peace.
Examiner or Justice
Justice of the Peace kind of subbed in, and they went out there to look at the body, and they said, "Oh, it's a big cat attack." Well, what was funny is the same time, the game warden and their civilian contracted tracker was out there too. And they said, no, it's not a cat attack. That's not how they do things. And there's no sign of a big cat in the area. This disagreement is documented in the paper. Well, the body was cremated very quickly.
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, we had one we covered years ago about a lady, I think it was in Pennsylvania. They ruled as she was attacked by wild dogs that killed her.
Yeah.
They killed her little dog, right? And, it makes you wonder how many of these things get covered up. Because, I mean, if you learn anything about death investigation in the United States over the last 70 years, it's scary. It's scary to die in this country because there's a lot of deaths that are ruled. Stupid things that, you if you're murdered, your murderer might get away with it. It's not like it is in the TV shows. It really isn't. I mean, coroners are elected. And if you found out some of the ways some of these medical examiners got certified online degrees, you'd be scared for any of your loved ones to have their deaths investigated.
And coroners are told oftentimes what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there was cover-ups in my hometown years ago. The rumors are, that there was 3 people that were killed, and they said, oh, they were rail riders, hobos that came in on the train, and that they were killed in another county. But he's now deceased, but there was a retired police officer that told a group of us that that's not what happened. I mean, he was a young cop at that time, and he said, no, these people were killed in the railroad yard by something that was stalking it. And the description that was given by the locals was that it was a gorilla wolf-like creature.
Mm.
But of course, they were mostly Hispanic and black people that lived in that area. So who cares what they say? They're just like, nobody cares.
I mean, if you're a werewolf and you got to kill people, what a great group of people to pick, right? Because nobody's going to listen to them.
Well, that's why serial killers pick who they pick.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fascinated with serial killers, and I feel there's such a connection here. I mean, if you go back to the people, the people, historical scholars will say, the stories of Europe and werewolves and all that stuff were probably them trying to understand the concept of serial killers in their community. Mm-hmm. And I think there's truth to that. There is, but I also think in that, that people take on things inside of them that are demonic, you could say.
Oh, absolutely.
Something, another influence, and leads these people to do horrific, evil things. And that doesn't take away their personal responsibility.
No.
They made a choice.
Well, I absolutely love this movie. I've watched it twice in the last 2 weeks. Nefarious.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
If you have not watched that movie, watch it, because there is so much information in that movie. It's just unbelievable, with the whole demonic possession and serial killer thing, and it kind of all it ties what we're talking about together. And I think there's something, and I coined it acute possession. And when you hear about these cases of, and most of the time it's especially ones with the women that have the postpartum depression and then they kill their kids and that type of thing. And then when they're interviewed, they say things like, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't remember doing this and anything. And everything leading up to and after, they're great people. They're great moms.
I have a personal experience with this. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I'm not convinced that it's not these demonic entities jumping in, having their fun, and sitting back and watching the chaos that ensues afterwards.
Right. No, right. I agree. I have an experience with this because a family member of mine and his wife, when they were a very young couple, had they had the youngest son at the time before they had their other kid, lived in a very haunted apartment. Downstairs apartment in a house, and it got really bad to the point, and this is why you need to talk to each other about your experiences, because both of them had the same experience, and luckily I got them talking to each other to figure this out, and this is why they got out, where they were giving their son a bath separately, different times, where a voice in their head was trying to tell them to drown their son.
Yeah.
And they are good people. They are not, you know what I'm saying? But that they both admitted that. Talk about, as a parent, to make yourself feel like you're gone crazy and lose it inside, to have that thought come into your head, like that. What I told them both is like, you're not. That's not your thought. Now you know, because you both have had it. Something else is trying to influence you. Something very
and it's like,
evil.
My thoughts are that the reason this happens to women so much is because many women suffer from postpartum depression. That is a weak point. That's a chink in the armor for these things to get in the door. Okay. And I think that's why it happens. That's like people, if you're going to go out and investigate the stuff that we do, one, I don't advise you do it. Okay. Let the morons like us do it. And two, if you're going to do it, be dang sure that you're armored up. But don't get cocky about it. Okay?
Yeah, that's where I've seen people get scratched, walk-ins happen, bad times.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily think that being scratched, we've been talking about this lately on the show, the Blondes and the Boos and me and Bigfoot Michigan Raw, we've all been talking about this, that the hair pulling, the scratching, sometimes, maybe it's not all a bad thing necessarily. Maybe it's just these things trying to get your attention, these spirits trying to get your attention. But on the other hand, do you really want to leave yourself open to that? That's something you really, really need to decide, because
you're giving an escalation. So, and are you going to give it more permission to escalate? It's your intent and what you're asking for, and you don't want it to escalate if it's scratching, if it's doing these kind of things are all negative, I mean, I warn people, it's like, this stuff's, super interesting. I get it. I've been into it a long time, but there is a danger.
Yeah.
For sure there is a danger, and you have to be careful with, you can't just go poking around. It's like sticking your hand into a dark crevice and you don't know what's in there. It's going to sting you.
Yeah.
Or bite your hand off.
It's like noodling, folks. It ain't for everybody.
Noodling is catching catfish with your hands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
What we were talking about with the dog attacks, I had Harley Owens on last night, and he lives in Tennessee, and he was talking.
Good guy, man.
He's a good guy. He was talking about the attacks that happened in a town that was right there by where he's from. Two people that were said to have been killed by dogs. And I know that people get attacked by these things, and you can't convince me that it doesn't happen. I hate when people trivialize and say that it doesn't happen. There's one show where the guy he always tries to push that narrative that they don't hurt you. Well, if they wanted to hurt you, they would. And I'm like, they try to. I mean, there's a lot of
you
people
won't know it because you don't. They're not left alive for you to find out.
Yeah.
You know, they're 7 feet tall and monstrous. If they do decide to attack, there ain't going to be anybody around to tell.
Yeah, they're just going to be a missing person, and that's I think is
Yeah.
what really happens. These people also, you know, what we were talking about with the hyena type creatures. There's a lot of people who see that type.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, they're not related to cats or dogs. They have their own classification of hyenidae, but their closest relatives are actually they're more closely related to mongooses, civets, and weasels, which is really weird to think about. That's their closest relatives. They split off from them a long time ago, and they're ugly. They look terrible, but people do see them with regularity, and not just in Africa. They see them around here now. I had someone, she was dealing with one in not New Mexico, Arizona, and she was saying, well, it was near the Arizona-California border. She said, what would be the precedent for this creature?
Right.
And I said that the cave hyena actually roamed all over North America until the Pleistocene, you know.
I mean, I would think it'd be possible there could be some possible variants of them that have survived in some parts of the wilderness, an ancient version of them, or something that's closely related.
that came from it.
Yeah.
But on a two-legged version, no, I don't.
No.
I don't.
If it's walking on 2 legs, then we're on a whole different subject.
Mm-hmm. And there's still people that believe that these two-legged beings are some type of cryptid that just is an undiscovered animal. And I'm like, no, they're not. The researcher and author Ken Gerard is a good friend of mine, and you know, when he was at my before we went to the first conference, even he had already made up his mind that from all the research that he had done with me, that these things were not a cryptid. Not a cryptid in the way that cryptozoological animal that has just been undiscovered. There's no way. There's just no way. And then the second conference, you know, he was like, I'm thoroughly convinced. And he said it, you know, in front of a bunch of people. And that conference had over 600 people. And he said, this is not a cryptid in the way that we think of as an undiscovered species or animal.
Right.
And there's a camp that's getting smaller and smaller, you know, it's shrinking, that really wants to believe that that's what these things are, and they'll fight you tooth and nail that that's what they are, but that's not what they are.
Well, you know, Josh, when me and you first met, I was there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
most people are when they start out.
Yeah. But I mean, and I've been struggling. I've been struggling with my encounter for years, much like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you're trying to get your mind wrapped around what these things could be, you go back and forth. You go back and forth, and I still don't know. I don't know what they are. I don't think any of us can say for sure we know exactly what's going on. We don't.
No.
A lot of us believe we have a handle on it, but I'm not sure we do.
I'm still in the area of wondering if they are some form of a changeling, because I'm still fascinated by people's experience of seeing people shapeshift. Like we, bring up the Billy Corgan reptilian story, which I always find fascinating because I knew the Smashing Pumpkins went to all their concerts and didn't hear him tell this story about seeing a woman change into a reptilian. I'm like, oh, has he been reading David Icke? I don't think so. Don't picture him as a David Icke fan, but he had that experience. He's told it twice. Could there this possibly? The reason I say this is because I saw that shadow being. I saw it show its face the one time. It was very bestial, and you have these things happen. And you look at like demonic possessions. A lot of times, I think what we're talking about is demonic attachments, infliction. But I always go back to, and I know me and Josh have talked about this, is to the Malachi Martin interviews on Art Bell when he talks about John Beatum, the perfectly possessed. and that there are people that out there that, you know, they know they're possessed, they're fully possessed. What does that mean? You know, what if you're fully possessed by a demon, and this demon has its whole makeup and structure is something completely alien to what you are? You know, maybe there's no soul left. Maybe this thing is just that, a demon walking among us. That it could shapeshift, change forms. I know you're like, well, that the human body can, you know, maybe it's not like it's a dimensional shift, a flip of a switch. You know, two things not occupying the same space at the same time, and you know, one flips over. And next you know, you got a big 7-foot tall werewolf standing in front of you, or a reptilian, and it turns back into Queen Elizabeth. I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah, I definitely don't think it happens the way that they depict in the movies. I don't think that there's all this molecular whatever that happens. It's not like that at all. The thing defies the laws of physics as we know it, but so do ghosts.
Yeah,
we don't understand how that works. We don't get it. And most people who have seen a dogman have seen ghosts too. I used to not know that until I just did so many cases and so many, and now, and I can't take full credit for it because I'll tell you guys what happened. It was like, it was a progression. I had a lot of people that were helping me out. I owe a lot to guys like Albert Rosales and Josh Nonocchio, Steve Stockton, I gotta say, you know, him, and many friends that helped me get cases and cover these. The NADP and now the IDP, and just going after these different cases from these different people and just hunting down the witnesses. And usually it's one thing leads to another. And when you first start down that rabbit hole, just like Tex, we talked about, you know, you're grounded in that. Well, it's a physical thing, whatever, but that's not what it is. I mean, you never see it go the other way, you know. But you talk to these people and you start to categorize these cases, and once you've done enough of them, you can kind of see, you know, how many people have had multiple encounters with something. You know, a lot of times they'll have one dogman encounter, but they'll have a plethora of other things. And people would come to me with their dogman encounter, but ultimately they had seen ghosts or they had seen UFOs, some sort of aerial phenomena or something. There was always more to it. And then you start to realize, like, man, these people are seeing a multitude of things because they have the ability to see it. And I think that one of the things that came up, you know, and recently, and I was talking to Harley about that last night, the RH negative blood. I think that gives them a leg up. I think there are more people with the eye that have that particular blood type.
I'm on the fence about that, but as far as the RH negative thing goes, but
I think it's a lot more to it than RH negative, honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think I often wonder here lately that if the whole transformation thing, could it be linked to the 411 missing stuff? Right. Could it be that it's a one-way trip? Could these people or these beings, whatever you want to look at it, if this affliction takes a hold of them and they do physically transform over a period of time, but it's a one-way trip, that would explain people just vanishing. And it would explain that you never see the transformation go the other way as far as the dogman stuff goes. Which
they become permanently the creature, you're saying, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of what happens at the end of Jack Nicholson's Wolf, you know, like he becomes the wolf at the end. You know, I don't know. I'm still like, you know, part of me really feels like there's something to do with this, like people that could, you know, like you said, Malachi Martin about John Beatum, you know, he was perfectly possessed. You know it. Well, what makes it? Is it a bloodline? Your certain genetics or whatever, your bloodline lets you possess the power of that demon. Unlike a person, if a regular person without that bloodline has that demon in them, there's a lot of ill effects, you know, heads turning, pea soup coming out their mouth. I don't know, you know, but, you know, saying that's a demon being in a body that can't host it. But there are some bodies that can host that demon, and it can fully manifest through that body.
Yeah, and there's bodies out there that are willing to. I think that's a big one.
That's what I'm saying. I'm actually been working on, I'm trying to get back into writing. I've been working on a fictional idea, basically, because you always have the werewolf stories of the werewolf guy, like Jekyll and Hyde, like, I don't want to turn into a curse. What about somebody who wants to become it, you know, that, you know, sells their soul to the demon? Because that's the old stories, you know, the guys like in Germany would have the wealth pelts or sell their soul to Satan or whatever, witches, and become wolves. There's a lot of those stories.
Well, there's the occult thing, where if you hit a certain level, and Josh can speak more to this than I can. I'm not well versed on this, but when you hit a certain level, you have a choice between becoming a vampire or a werewolf.
Yes, I've heard this.
Or a shapeshifter in general. And that's the thing. Somebody had asked me that in a group the other day. They were like, why is it those two? I'm like, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not a singular thing. Vampire is a catch-all term for somebody who uses energy / blood of others and is a walking parasitic corpse-like being. And werewolf is just a catch-all term because some of these things look like hyenas. Some of them look like bears.
Or cats.
Cats, yeah. There are two different sections here.
Lion.
And I don't hear anything about lions. And I know that I've heard of it, but I've never heard any reports have been given to me of lions. But
I'm talking about the lion-headed people back in history that we heard about.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some talk of that, but I've never heard of anybody. Most of it was like medicine men that changed into lions, but then you start.
But look how many medicine men from different kinds of cultures that had no contact all had these abilities to shapeshift. They, you know, like it's just something in the human geist, the psycho, you know, that the psyche that we have this idea that's primitive of changing into animals, you know, that. Or is there something more to this, that it is an ability that's been through certain bloodlines able to do?
And Legally Blonde said, in Romania, the belief is if you are a werewolf in life, you turn into a vampire in death. Yes,
true.
And, yeah,
You know, Hemlock Grove, dude, has one of the best sci-fi werewolf transformation scenes in it. For one, but two, they played on a lot of those old mythologies in that show. The first season was awesome. Everything after sucked, but they played on those old mythologies. Like in it, the grandfather dies who was a werewolf, and they cut his head off because they didn't want him to come back, right? As like kind of like the vampire. What it ends up is an evil wolf basically. But there's a vampire in it, and the vampire in it has, you know, basically is tricked into committing suicide to become the vampire. Not to spoilers, sorry. But it's a great show. It came out
now we don't have to watch it.
Bill Skarsgård. Yeah. You don't have to watch it, but it was really good season. First, you know, watch the first season. Don't watch any of the rest. But I just ruined it. But you know, but I love that story because they conclude a lot of those old myths. Hollywood's changed so much, but you get back into the old myths of these things, especially in Romania. Yeah, that the two are connected.
We need to hook them up with Danielle.
Danielle Horizon.
Yeah,
he's coming on my show in March. You should get her on, Tex. Tell her to come and be on with Jason because she's Eastern European.
Yeah,
I love it.
She's her great grand uncle is Vlad the Impaler.
I knew you were going to say Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one friend that sometimes listens, Rat King, if you're there, in Romania sometimes, and I was asking him stuff about, you know, Romanian culture. It's so interesting, you know. The you know, the mythologies and stuff that came out of there, you know, but if you compare them to other cultures, it's even more interesting, you know.
I'll send her your way.
Yeah, please do. I want to mention the audience. I usually had a commercial break I would have done like 10 minutes ago. We're going to keep going. I am going to take a break here in about 15-20 minutes because you know, I got to go run to the bathroom. All this coffee and water.
Just leave me in charge.
Or I'll leave you talking, whatever. But I am going to open up the phone lines if anybody wants to call in. They are open, and I got the lines up. 219-230-4444, 260-225-9419 are the phone lines. Also, Skype IDs, jblandoo or jblandparanormalsoup. They're in the show description if you got to look it up there. For people listening on the radio, I know that's the hard one, but we'll give a shout out again for the phone lines. And again, I'm up here running on the banner. If anybody wants to call in and join this conversation, especially if you've had a Dogman experience, I'd love to hear you.
Michelle says, so you were saying all werewolves and vampires are created by selling their souls. They are not made by being bitten. Now, I think there is something to the being bitten thing, but I don't think that that's necessarily how they become. I think they give them something parasitic in a bite. That's what I believe. And then they accept it or they don't. But they can also be
or it's genetic. Maybe it's family generational curse in a sense. Like that's what they did in, like I said, they went back to the Romania myth in Hemlock Grove. The kid's mother is a vampire, been around for a couple hundred years, and convinces him, she ruins his life so he'll kill himself because that's what he has to do to complete the transformation, the ritual, the takeover, to become like her, a vampire. And I thought that was super fascinating because what if that's what it is, you know? We talk about, you know, like again, Father Malachi Martin talking about these families, these New England families, first families from the Pilgrims and that coming over, that a lot of these people have these generational demons in their families.
Yeah, I think that's absolute. You know, you start talking about these, I mean, these families that have just had these, well, for lack of a better term, cursed lives. You know, and these generational curses are some of the hardest to get rid of, from what I understand. But you can get rid of them, but it ain't easy.
Yeah, and we're talking about some old generational curses with these families, and but that these families know. That was the point Malachi Martin was making, that they know, and they refer to them like as a familiar of the family, a familiar spirit, or things like this. They'll tell their children and get them incorporated in knowing about the spirit of the family. I met somebody that had this in their family with women. They would all see a hag at some point in their teens, and all the women in the family had. You know, and it followed all the women down the mother's line generations. Right. You know, and it makes you wonder what's at point. You know, is it because it's looking for the perfect host?
You know,
the genetics.
I don't mean to completely shift gears here, but
we do it all the time.
When Josh was talking about the whole, if you see this, people tend to see this other stuff, right? And some people talk about being marked. I don't think it's that. Maybe in some cases, but I think for the most part, it's because as children, we don't know that this stuff isn't supposed to be real, right?
Right.
And you have that innocence of acceptance, you know, as a child. And I think once you experience any of these phenomena that we're talking about tonight, that you kind of regain that innocence, that openness, that allows you to experience these things. You know, open your third eye, as it were, I guess. I don't know. But I've often, and almost everybody I talk to that has had one experience or the other, somewhere down the road has another one of a different kind.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I think and you hear about these hunters. Well, I've been hunting all my life. I ain't never seen no Bigfoot. Were you looking for them? You're lucky to see you wouldn't know the deer was there if you didn't step out to the feeder you were baiting him with. You know? How many times have you walked by a deer and you didn't even know it was there? Much less something that is wanting, that is as intelligent as these things are, trying to hide from you.
Yeah, the hide and seek king, man.
Yeah,
you don't want you to see him, you're not going to see him. It's that simple.
You see him for two reasons. You see Bigfoot, and I think Dogman too, but you see him for two reasons. Either they screw up, and they do, or they want you to. One of the two.
And the whole perception thing, I've talked about, for me, my earliest memories, I saw a green floating head with my cousin, screaming and flying through the room, and maybe at the age of 4 or 5 go, okay, everything that they're telling me is bullcrap. These things are real, and I kept my perception maybe open to all these things. Just having that young experience.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the
kept my mind open.
If you have an experience out in the wilderness, in the woods, you're looking for those now. You know what they look like.
Damn straight you are.
You know the patterns. I don't care who you are. Once you have any kind of weird experience in the woods, you're looking for other things. In the back of your head, you're going to subconsciously pick it up. So
and probably go out armed. If
yeah,
you see those kind of things, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're definitely looking if you have that kind of experience.
I mean, I didn't go armed for a very, very long time, and I was doing a lot of solo research out in the woods, and I had a lot of encounters, a lot. But the way I looked at it is I've been doing, been out in the woods all my life, and these things ain't never hurt me, and I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying that you don't run across the ornery one on occasion, and it does happen, okay? That, Grandpa Bigfoot was shot in the butt. He raises his troop up where he don't like humans, and when it will eat one on occasion or whatever, But I think the more of the encounters with Bigfoot are not aggressive. Even the ones that even the encounters that are, we talk about bluff charges, we talk about that type of thing, rock throwing and everything like that. The loud, hollering at
more
you
like
and all
warnings, probably anything to warn you to stay away from territory. I
think it's them trying to keep the encounter from escalating to an aggression.
Right.
Because if you look at, and I know, don't beat me up, folks. If you look at the animal kingdom, and it's us included, what's the first thing that we do? Very few people will not hesitate and throw a punch first thing. There's posturing, there's bluffing. You better think twice before you want to. You take that step. We bow up, right? And even in professional fighting, Josh can speak to this.
Yeah.
There's that form of posturing,
if a predator's hunting you, there is no posturing.
No.
It's going to strike you when it has the best opportunity to kill you.
Exactly. I've always joked and said if I ever turn up all tore up and everything, because I did a lot of solo research, it's not a bear attack. Well, I can't say that now because there's bear and supposed tigers in our area.
Tigers? Well, yeah. What? Because people like Tiger King, stuff like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they're roaming around out there in Brown Springs.
Because where I research is Brown Springs, Oklahoma. Well, the Tiger. I know you joke, but the Tiger King's first place was about 40 miles from where I researched. Well, then when they closed him down, and he went off, for the vacation in the Crossbar Hotel, that the folks that took it over moved it within 1.5 miles of my research area. When they closed that down, there were 17 tigers that are unaccounted for.
Oh my, 17?
Yeah. And we were out one night. You're going to love this story.
Dear God.
We were out one night, and I was taking a couple of folks up to the cemetery up there, which is that's a whole nother show. But we pulled up at the bottom of the cemetery, and we were immediately surrounded by 5 cop cars. There was 3 sheriff's deputies and 2 tribal police. Well, we gingerly got out of the cars, and they said, "What are y'all doing up here?" And I kind of got this crap-eating grin on my face, and he said, "Y'all up here Bigfoot hunting?" And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "We're the Bigfoot guys, and that's, paranormal investigators." And I was going to take them up the cemetery. Well, I ended up talking to these fellers for about 45 minutes. And they were telling me that 2 of their officers had Bigfoot sightings right down the road, which is phenomenal. Okay. Well, then they asked us if we were armed, and we said no, but the guy back at camp is packing. And they go, well, we encourage everybody that comes out here to carry a sidearm. I'm like, what? And they said, yeah. And then they got into the whole story about them having tiger sightings since they closed that outfit down, and they were 1,700 accounted for cats. Now that goes back to when I was out there by myself, and I was going up to the cemetery by myself one night. This is on the channel, folks. You can hear me walking up this walking up and everything. And I'm walking up this trail through the cemetery, and I hear this, and I hear something over to my left. And I said, okay, I kind of heard a growl over here, kind of had a purr to it. This is before I found out about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I go on up to the top of the cemetery, right at the entrance, and I got a little bitty pin light with me. It was early in the game for me. I had a cell phone, no service, a pocket knife, and a pin light. That's all I had with me. And so I'm kind of shining my little light around, and I look back over my left shoulder, and I catch this eye shine about 2.5, 3 foot off the ground. And these eyes are about as big around as silver dollars, and they're about 8 inches apart. Mm-hmm. And I'm going through my head, what could this be? Well, the only things that are got that big of an eye spread, that are in the area would be like that I knew at the time would be a horse, a cow, or a critter. Now, I call Bigfoot Dogman critters. Okay, just so y'all know. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't think it's a horse or a cow, so maybe I'm looking at a Bigfoot. This is cool, right? And I'm watching this thing, and it starts playing peekaboo behind a tree with me. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then it stood up. And when you stand up and you're kind of kneeling down and you stand up, you also go forward. Well, that's what this thing do. And I could only see like the silhouette of this thing, it was on the very edge of my light. And when it stood up, it got closer, and I'm like, and then it got about my height, and I'm like, well, maybe it's time to go.
I don't know if that's a big cat, because I don't think they'd stand up like that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how these tigers are tall.
Yeah.
So when it got up about that high, I was like, but I didn't know anything about tigers possibly in the area that,
Yeah.
So, who knows? I was convinced it was a Bigfoot, and I went ahead and backed out, walked back down the trail. But at that time, I had no clue about possible tigers out there. And then a few years later, we found this out, and Jason McLean, real good friend of ours, and he's convinced it was a tiger. He is absolutely convinced it was a tiger.
I was thinking it until you said it stood up, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not an animal expert, but I don't think a tiger would stand up.
I'm not talking about standing up on 2 feet, just being that tall when he raised up to all fours.
Oh, I get you.
Because I think he was probably laying down. He was crouched.
Laying down is more like a crouch, is like kind of like the tiger kind of like.
Yeah, that's what I think it was when he was low to the ground.
When you said stand up, I'm thinking like stood up.
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
But
now it sounds like you might have been being stalked by a tiger there. I met that guy. Tiger King before he was famous. He actually walked into my store. Yeah, he used to hang out here around Michigan City. And he came to my store, and he's like, you got a YouTube channel? And I'm like, yeah. And he's telling me about his tigers and everything. And then like a year later, he's like super famous. And people are talking about the Tiger King. And I'm like, I met that guy. And his boyfriends. he was crazy. He was all into, when he found out I had a paranormal channel, he's like, oh, really? I'm going to check that out. I don't know if you ever did. But, I don't think they're meant to be pets, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to have a bad time. But, man, now you got to worry about tigers out there. All right, I'm going to... See, I can't answer the phone line if I step away. I'm going to step away for just 1 minute. If you guys want to keep talking, I hate missing out on the conversation, but I will be right back.
Sure,
so I will remove myself, and I'll be right back. Because usually we take commercial breaks for this, but I will make it as quick as possible. I'll be right back.
So,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask the quiet one over here. She's barely spoke anything. She said anything. What's your take on?
I'm usually running chat.
Yeah. So Oshio Benny says, I don't trust anyone who loves Game of Thrones. I wouldn't say I love Game of Thrones, but I watched it. I thought
I
it was
liked
pretty
it. It was
cool. I
entertaining.
liked it, yeah. He said it's a sociopath training manual. Well, maybe.
Well, yeah, well,
I don't know.
so if every serial killer movie, if you want to look at it that way.
I like the Starks. I mean, they were the only good ones. Everybody else was an evil piece of crap. That
I
whole
never
show there,
watched it.
no. Seems like the good people always got killed. That was the problem with that show.
Yeah.
But that's like real life. The good people always get dogpiled on and screwed with. That's what happens.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. So this, I was thinking, because in this area over here where I'm from, there's an area, just one area though. It doesn't happen all over. There seems to be pockets, but there are reports of black cats, and they will stand up on their hind legs.
Oh.
And I was watching a show on like Discovery. It might have been, you know what it was? I think it was. It might have been High Check's show.
Mm.
What is it called? The
Monster Quest?
I think it was Monster Quest. And the guy had pulled over and he was changing a tire and he got attacked by a black cat, and then it stood up and walked away on its hind legs. And I thought, that because I think it was High Tech's show. He's another one that Jason should get on. And also, you mentioned Jason McLean. Jason would be a good guest.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bertram.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we have a
That
pretty
name
big
sounds familiar.
clique, Jason. You ought to, Monica, she's another one. I saw you in Monica's chat the other night, Jason, when Kevin was on there.
Well, I'm a big fan of Monster Hunters. I'd love to talk.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and then he recognized our names, he said something. And, but I was just like, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who he was.
You talking about Kevin that was
yeah.
on that other night? Yeah, he emailed me before that show. That's how I ended up finding about it. So I got him scheduled for next Sunday to come on. And
He's a really interesting guy. Nice guy, too. Nice guy.
Yeah. So we got to get you on with, we got to get those people on with you. Bettina, too, would be a good guest.
Yeah.
Because my vision for the community is everybody working together, like I envisioned a long time ago, and that's what Harley was wanting to do. And of course he got attacked, and I told him, I said, look, this is what happens. There's going to be a small contingent of dickheads. That's just what they are.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they do.
History's full of them. So,
but what happens though is they're very vocal, and they make it look like there's more of them than there are. But I told them, I said, for the most part, there's a lot of great people in this community. They don't all agree on everything. But, I mean, I had a conference with 20 plus speakers, and it was 3 days or 2 days and 3 nights. And it went on, and 600 and something people showed up, and it was great. I mean, the collaborations that came out of it were awesome. And I did benefit from having a lot of friends that were willing to, help me follow leads and stuff. And then eventually people just started sending me their stuff, and it just snowballed, and that's how it went down. And, there's people
we're having.
Do what?
That's like the conference that we're having.
Mm-hmm. I think your guys' conference is going to be good. I talked to Bowden the other day. He's going to be on your show tomorrow. And Brian's another one. He's a good friend of mine. And Brian Bowden, you should get him on. He's good. He's got a lot to say.
I saw somebody mention, what is it? I missed. I should have tagged it. Somebody mentioned about having L.A. Marzulli on. I had him on a couple of years ago. He's really interesting.
Yeah, I interviewed him. He's a good guy too. Kumbo, I interviewed Kumbo. Kumbo's a good speaker too. I don't know who this John person is, but John, I hope you're a real person, okay, and not just.
I knew you're. Oh yeah, I see that one.
Yeah, dark water, trouble in politics. I don't know, and who cares? Okay,
yeah.
Just everything you're saying is just all over the place. There was a guy named John that was doing a lot of stuff, so I don't know if that's you, but okay, well, we should probably boot him then. I mean, if you're the same guy that was doing what you were doing, I don't know. I don't know who this is.
All right, taken care of.
Yeah, because I don't know. You got to be careful with some of these people, and they come on and they play around, and they don't stick to the subject. They did it the other day to BMR, to Bigfoot Michigan Rob, who will be your guest next Sunday. And he's a good friend of
For
mine.
me?
Yeah, for you.
Not next Sunday. We're gonna have to work on the other one because I already put Kevin down for that one.
Okay. Oh, Kevin's coming on for you Sunday?
Next Sunday, yeah, this next Sunday.
So then we have to
see if we
move.
can get him for the following because I'm open after anything else after that. But yeah,
we'll
because
see
Kevin
if we
reached
can
out
move
to me.
him on, and if he can do it, we'll move him on. But he had his channel. He had somebody go in there and just start talking about crazy nonsense, and it changed.
Would it be
the
YouTube
whole,
if you don't get it once in a while?
Yeah, right.
Well, this
I mean-
particular female, she goes from channel to channel because she was doing it in my channel, and people called it out. I didn't see it because I wasn't paying attention to the chat real closely. But she starts talking about crazy damn nonsense, and then it gets everybody talking about it.
Yeah,
and then that's
I've been very lucky. I have a great group of people usually in my chat room, and Jamie and Rob help out with that. Luckily,
it's getting bigger. So you're going to have to be. That's when you start having to be careful because once you get 200 people in there now, you get some weird, crazy people that'll pop up and say and do stupid things, and then you got to be careful with those people.
That's what the block and delete's for.
Yep. That'll be
It's bad when they call in. You haven't heard some of the calls I've gotten before. I've had to hang up. When you have open phone lines, you don't have a screener.
You give them too much attention. You get too mad, and you give them what they want by getting upset with them on the air and talking about it.
I don't usually.
You do.
I usually just hang up.
No, and then you talk about it. You just need to hang up, brush it off.
I try.
Don't give them the time of day.
They'll come on and
I do my
say
best.
something really quickly. Is that what they do? They
Yeah,
say,
just to be like a little 13-year-old, prankster.
Yeah, they'll say something stupid real fast.
Yep.
Yeah, but screw those people.
I've had that happen when I do open lines too. It's like, really?
I take the risk. Hey, our Bell used to do it with 16 million people, so
Yeah.
and with the FCC, but he had a dump button at least, a delay. He had nope, and you're like, call into our Bell. Somebody got dumped, whatever they just said. I wish I had that ability. I don't, so I gamble, but I don't have to worry about the FCC. Just YouTube.
But you got 204 people in here, and your chat will get bigger and bigger, and it'll just probably keep growing.
Phone lines are open too, people. If you want to join this conversation, we got about an hour left. If you want to join, 219-230-4444, and I forget the other one until it comes back up. 260-225-9419. If you want to join us and talk about your experiences. Oh, there we go. We got a call right here.
Cool.
I probably just summoned the worst call ever, maybe, or maybe the best call ever. We're about to find out. Who do we got on the line?
Hi, Jason. It's Zeriana.
Oh, it's
How
the
are
best
you
call
tonight?
ever. It's a Zeriana. My heart's a little like, oh, who do we got to get here? Hell, I'm glad it's you. It's
Hey,
good to hear your
Zeriana. How you
voice.
doing tonight?
Hi. How you doing, Josh? And Tex, is it?
Tex.
I wasn't sure about your name.
Tex, yes.
Okay. I have Jason knows the story. I'll only be repeating it, and Jamie knows the story. A couple of summers ago, there was a lot of construction and taking down the woods and whatever. And it was in the summer, around July and August maybe. And I started hearing like banging. First I heard banging like on trees. And I mean, loud banging, And of course it's, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, And then I would hear these strange sounds, these vocalizations. And I'd say, okay. And I tried to explain it, maybe coyotes or something else, And we had bears, so I thought, well, maybe it's a bear, And then we had, and then it came closer on the property, and it was banging on our dumpsters, our metal dumpsters with something. But it wasn't only banging, it's like it was taking the top off and letting it go, which went through the whole you know, it was very loud, you know. And I'm going, okay, that's weird, you know. And I tried to record this activity, and if I heard anything, you know, and I'm going, that's not really, you know, it's not an animal I'm familiar with, you know. And then I'm going, no, it can't be like a Bigfoot. We don't have those in, you know, where I am, you know. And, you know, I'm going through all the things, trying to debunk everything. And this thing, since I can, well, you know, I have a lot of gifts. And I tried to maybe say, well, you know, communicate and try to say, hey, look, you know, whatever you're doing, you know, you're making an awful lot of noise, and I hope, you know, just go back.
It's 2 a.m. Shut the f up.
Yeah. Well, you know, so yeah, it's early for me, but you know, so I tried to communicate and say, you know, well, whatever you are, whoever you are, you know, maybe you go back and whatever, you know. Well, this thing came close a couple of times to my window to the point that I could smell it. And it was such I can't even describe the smell. It was so bad, you know. And I could, you know, feel this thing right outside my window. I'm not, you know, I didn't look outside, you know. I'm not gonna do that, you know. And and I could hear this thing like breathing, you know. And I was like, okay, you know. I said, okay, I acknowledge you, whatever you are. If you are Bigfoot, and you kind of, I acknowledge you. Can you, you know, I don't mean you harm. Can you go back to wherever you were, you know? And okay, you know, and I acknowledged it, you know. And at that point, I was pretty scary if it's outside my window, you know. And so I, you know, and again, I never got a recording or anything of you know, and of course, you know.
Well, you felt
horrible.
You felt it. You smelt it. It was outside your window. You heard it breathing. I mean, I don't blame you for not looking. But we're talking tonight, Ariana, about so many of these people that have these kind of encounters have so many other encounters too, you know, and that's for you. You're a contactee, you know, and you're having a plethora of experiences.
Yeah, but I mean, it left after that, and it hasn't come back, thank goodness, you know. But you know, I sometimes wonder, in our known world, what we see day to day, what we are not aware of. You know, Bigfoot, Dogman, various other things, you know. And, you know, I think that, you know, we humans are kind of selfish in our own little world, you know, and we should kind of acknowledge them. You know, to a point.
But maybe that's why this thing was lurking out your window, because it knew you would. Because you could sense it.
Well, trust me, I really didn't want to bother with it. You know, I kind of remembered all the shows that I was watching on TV and going, well, it could be violent, and I don't want to mess with it, and the whole thing, you know. So, you know, but yeah, I don't know about Dogman. I don't know about that, you know, but...
Well, you don't know what that was outside your window. It could have been Dogman, it could have been Bigfoot. You don't know. You didn't look out, and I don't blame you for not looking at it. I think a lot of people are just like, yep, I'm not looking at that. You know, nope, I might just go crawl under my covers now. A lot of grown adults do that, so I don't blame you at all.
Well, I didn't want to, like I said, I didn't want to really, you know, mess with it too much, you know.
Tex,
but
Tex, what's your thoughts on that encounter she had?
Well, you know, I think that whatever it was curious. Now, Bigfoot is known for being very, very curious. I've been cheek to cheek with them outside my tent, and they will, on occasion, come up to windows. The whole smell thing, was it more of a wet dog, or was it more of a, like the whole undescribable skunk, garbage, dead body thing?
Kind of like that, but kind of like a wet dog too. With it, it was nasty. It was, just nasty.
I think that is. I think that's something they can, if they can't fully control it, they at least can partially control it, because I think it may be a defense mechanism for as far
like
as
a
Bigfoot.
skunk.
As far as Bigfoot goes, because you don't smell it all the time. I think it's when they get anxious. Maybe it happens involuntarily, but I think it can be used as a defense mechanism also.
Right.
But I don't think this thing meant you any harm at all, because a window's not going to stop it if they want to.
Right.
Let's just,
Well, yeah, but I kind of felt bad because I did, I called it Bigfoot, but I mean, I don't know what it was. I mean, that's the only, let's say, justification I could call it, maybe.
well, I don't know if it knows. I don't know if these things know what Bigfoot means. It's just the fact that you talk to it, and if you did it in a calm demeanor, like you're talking to us now, probably didn't get any, feel like it was threatened off of you at all.
Yeah.
Have you had any other encounters that were like this that you think may have been the same thing? And since then?
Well, it's been around. It hasn't actually, come that close. But I know there's something out there, and I kind of just, I haven't heard any knocking anymore, or like the dumpsters or anything else like that. But I kind of acknowledged it. I kind of acknowledged that it's out there somewhere, but if I'm not a threat, then that's fine. I don't want to be a threat. But there was a lot of destruction to the woods and construction going on, and I think taking away their habitat, if you could call it a habitat. And so I think maybe it was angry, whatever it was, that with all the machinery and stuff,
Yeah.
But that's like I said, I felt unfair calling it Bigfoot, but maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
Something was outside your window, obviously. Well, Zeriana, thank you for calling in.
Thank you. And great show.
And Zeriana, thank you for your Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
One of my biggest supporters of my show.
I like the show.
All right.
Yep.
Have a great night.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You can support the show too. Super chats, YouTube memberships, or Patreon with the link or for Patreon is in the show description. Or if you go on Patreon, I think you'll type in Jason Bland Paranormal Soup. It should bring us up. You can help the show, pay for the bills, $1 a month, $2 a month, or the YouTube membership. We're going to be starting to do some stuff with that as well. So Zeriana signed up for both. I love her to death, and she always calls in. Anybody else, you got time, you want to call in and join this conversation. You don't have to have had a Dogman encounter, but if you got a question, that'd be great to call in, or something else. If you had a demonic encounter, I think, like I said, I think these things are somewhat related. And I know people don't like to hear that. The same with the aliens thing too.
I don't. There's a connection, but I don't know if it's a connection that a lot of people think it is. This is my opinion. I don't think they're directly related.
There's something related in the whole understanding of what's going on here. Like, not saying all aliens are demons, but there's some kind of connection to this. And, of course, the start of religions and everything.
Well, even with even with the whole Bigfoot being orbs and aliens and all this kind of stuff, I don't think that is a direct. I don't think they're the same thing, just in a different form. Okay. For some reason, it seems that these beings, entities, whatever you want to call them, are attracted to one another. I don't know why, I don't know how.
Or at least the same areas.
Yeah, and I was kind of toying with the idea the other day. It's something new that my weird brain came up with. That what if the orbs that we see out in the woods so often are spirit energy, okay? Because maybe those are the positive ones. Because to me, nature is a positive energy. That's where I go to recharge. I go to nature. And I think a lot of us do. These other beings that we call Bigfoot and Dogman, I don't think all of them, I don't know about the whole, Slim Jimmy did it again.
Oh, thank you, Slim Jim. Thank you for your $4.99 donation. We do got another person on the phone. We want to take this call. I wanted you to finish your thought if you had it.
I would just wonder if it is possible that these things are attracted to the positive energy of nature itself, and that's why we see so many orbs if they are spirit based.
Or it's spiritual energy that can manifest depending on the viewer.
Exactly.
Who do we got on the line here? You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Mouse.
Sorry, I missed it. What'd you say your name is?
This is Mouse.
Mouse. Hey, Mouse. Thanks for calling in.
No problem. Thanks for doing the call-in show.
Always. I love having open lines. That's why I started doing this show. You still there, Mouse?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you're on air.
So, I don't know if anyone's watched Rye's show, The Bodega, but I've been on his C2C and talked about this one. So, I'll start off with saying I've had more than one different experience that I couldn't really explain off. But I am autistic, which seems to sometimes be a draw for these things.
You have a different perception. That's what we've been talking about tonight, too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of
this happened.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of them are possibly drawn to, people with certain energies, certain vibrations, or however you want to look at it.
Yep. So this happened about early 2006, 2007. It was an off time for me because January 15th, 2006 was when my mom had passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for your loss.
So, thank you. So at this time, I was still living at home with my dad and one older sister. And I had this bright idea to start getting up early in the morning and going for walks by myself. And a female out in the country, I'm like, oh, nothing will bother me,
What bad can happen, right?
In that invincible headset. And didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just go for morning walks and come back. And for the longest time, nothing weird had happened. I rarely seen a car or anything. So I'm like, oh, this is fine. Never took a weapon, nothing. Well, one morning, I got up and went for the walk as usual. It was a little foggy, but I didn't think much of it. And I went
down the road to the one neighbor's house, which was quite a walk, and then I came back. On my way back, I got this feeling like I was being watched. And a lot of times here in the country, you're going to get that feeling, especially when you're by yourself. And so I looked back, and I thought there was a guy following me, and I'm looking around like there's no cars or nothing, so I'm like, what's going on? Is this person going to unalive me or what?
Yeah.
And so I stopped because I'm trying to figure out what to do because I didn't think I could run fast enough back to my house to avoid this person behind me. And whoever was following me was on two legs, so I thought it was a man. And after a few seconds of me having stopped, they stopped because they realized I had stopped walking. And then I don't know what happened because I didn't see the transition. But the next thing I knew, they were jumping into the ditch, but it was clearly a canine, not a person.
Ah. So you saw him as a man first, like a shape of a man.
Yeah. So at that time, the only thing I could compare it to was like Twilight, and I'm like, I'm not going to go around telling people this because they're going to think I'm out of my mind.
It's been that time period. It's partly vampires and all, but that, see, we're talking about that. See, to me, I'm maybe it's just because I'm a fan of the werewolf tales. When I was a kid, you know, Teen Wolf, all that stuff. I love the idea of the werewolf. Part of me believes some of this could be some people that can change, changelings. Great door song, too. But you know, that experience you had, this thing that was stalking you. I mean, that's what it sounds like. And obviously, like Mouse, you said you've had a lot of different paranormal experiences. We don't have time to get into all those tonight, but you're definitely gonna have to call back in and tell me more of them. But
yeah, a few different ones.
But do they all? Are we talking like ghost, alien? Like what are your like the plethora kind of experiences?
Sorry, you're cutting out.
Oh, what are the kind of experiences? I mean, don't get into all the we don't have time for it. I had other people trying to call in, but are we talking like your other experiences? Are they in the realm of ghost, alien?
Well, was the time I was almost drowned by something, but I don't know for sure what it was.
Okay, that's pretty good. You have to tell me that one at another time, but yeah.
That's a whole other long story. I did, in my teens, my mother took me to what are called psychic circles, so I seen some different things during those, like orbs and stuff. And for those who don't know what that is, it's where a bunch of people get together and sit in a circle, and they're trying to contact ghosts.
Well, this is what we've been talking about tonight, Mouse, is like, you know, it's this perception that people are, you know, we constantly, Josh, Tex, myself, find the people that have these encounters have a lot of other kinds of encounters. And maybe it's about perception.
Yeah, it sounds like to me that you've been open to this stuff from a very early age, and I think that's good and bad in my book, because at a young age you don't know how to put your guards up when you're dealing with this stuff.
It can be dangerous,
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
But it sounds like your mother, I hope she knew what she was doing, and, you know, she protected you. So.
I'm not sure. She used to tell me all the time that she'd like have gnomes come into her room and talk to her at night, and I didn't really believe in that kind of thing, so I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't say that to her because she was really thought this was happening, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I still don't know.
It sounds like you got a lot of stories to tell me, so you call in again, Mouse.
Okay.
So, especially if you feel like one relates
Thank you for having me on.
Especially if I got open lines, you better call in and tell me more, because it sounds like you got a lot of cool ones. Thank you so much for calling in.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mouse.
Have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
So it's like stalking her. You know, what
Yeah.
she describes there, the foot. So my shadow person experience, it would do that, like walk behind you. It did it to my friend because it was me and two other friends that had this whole experience together, and the way they first encountered was that just very similar, but it would turn into 7-foot dark mass behind you, and you'd see it. But it's like you could hear its footsteps, though. It's so weird. I just had somebody try calling in. The phone lines are open. You can call in. Somebody I saw from Texas was trying to call in. Get more Texas natives calling in.
One of the neighbors, huh?
Yeah, right. But man, like, you know, I'm just saying, I mean, I have no way of knowing, no proof or whatever, but I wonder if these things could be changelings, and that kind of story is when you start wondering that when they say they see it as a man and then turn into a wolf. All right, we got somebody else on the line. Who do we got?
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing? Thanks for calling.
How y'all doing today? So yeah, I'm from Texas, right? And earlier I heard Josh say something about these black cats, and then, you know, I heard Tex say something about these orbs. And so I was just trying to ask about these black cats. What is up with these black cats being seen around Texas?
Well, we do have them. I mean, they're rare, but we do have them.
Right.
And
right
out there where I grew up, you know, about an hour west of Fort Worth, out there, you know, Podunk, we would have one come across our property every once in a while because they have these big cats. They have a huge territory that they cycle through, and every once in a while, like I said, we'll have. Now, I believe it was black. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. It was black jaguars that were once indigenous to Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the melanin, and they have this. The spots, you know, they're bigger, and they just, if you look at them closely, though, you can see that they are just spots, but they're come
spots,
out
but they're
solid.
dark.
Yeah, they're almost solid black.
So they're. I mean, we pretty much drove them out of Texas, hunted them to, extinction in Texas, I guess you could say, but they were south of the border, and they're starting to come back.
Yeah.
So they do get seen from time to time.
Right.
My sister saw one a couple of years ago on our old family place. So yeah.
Are you referring to like
it was
black
just some
cats?
those.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
What's that?
Are you referring to black cats
Well,
that stand upright? Is that what you're talking about?
Man, I don't know, but you know, well, I've been trying to put stuff together, right? And so before I actually, sign out, try to make a story, try to make my own thing what I could understand of, but I was just laying down my bed of my truck, just listening. Usually I listen to while I go to sleep.
Yeah.
And you brought up the black cats, and then Tex brought up the orbs, and so it kind of all clicked in my mind. So my dad, maybe a year or two ago, he told me about him seeing this large black cat with this long black tail in the woods. And so, I never thought anything about it. I had dogs. My dogs, I had maybe 5 dogs around my house that I had disappear. Neighbors' pet stuff disappear and everything, right? But then I have this aunt who, and my family, we thought, man, maybe she, got some drugs or anything like that. And, I never thought anything about it, but I was like, man, that don't make any sense because she never liked smoking. She never liked smoking. She never liked drinking. She never did any of that. And so, for a time, she would only stay at the abandoned houses in the woods. And then my dad, he talked her into coming to his house, our house, really, and spending the night. And man, I don't know. She would go out. So in the middle of the night, she would go out and leave and come back during the daytime. And my dad asked her, why you leaving during the night? Why don't we just stay at the house during the night or whatever? And she was like, oh, well, my friend would come visit me. I go for my friend. And he was like, your friend? And he told me about it. And I was like, man, I don't know. I don't really see anybody. But my dog, he would go off with her. He would be watching over her, protecting her, something like that. And she was shooing back to the house. And so, one day while she was gone, me and my girlfriend was outside. I forgot what we were doing. We came back towards the house, and like around the evening and afternoon. And man, I seen like this. It was like at the same time, my dog was barking towards the woods, out towards the wood lines, and we looked, and there was like this bright ball of light. I thought it was like in the middle of the daytime. I thought it was like a lantern.
Yeah.
Right. It looked like a lantern. That's how bright the light was. Yeah. And I was like, man, it's somebody out there in the woods. And she looked, and she was like, what is that? And I was like, man, it's like somebody, a big ball of light, like a lantern. Like somebody got a lantern during the daytime, which don't make any sense. And so we went back in the house, told my dad, and he was like, man, it's probably your aunt. And I was like, but she ain't got no light. Does she got a light? And he was like, nah, she ain't got no light. And, same thing happened. The next day she came back. My dad asked her. She was like, oh, well, that's, my friend came and got me. We went to go do whatever. He never asked what they was doing. He just asked who she was with, who she was leaving with. Yeah. And he was like, oh, it's, my friend. So, well, one day, a little on down the road, he told me that they had got into it. And so I was like, man, what y'all get into it about? He was like, man, I was asking where she was going, and then she started talking all type of nonsense about, seeing family members that was already gone and passed away and stuff like that. And, I was telling her those demons, and she was like, nah, those were them that was coming back and telling her all type of stuff. And he was like, man, and he was like, I looked through her. She had like a journal. I'd never seen a journal, but he seen a journal. And he was like, man, she had a journal, and I seen she was over there just writing down in the journal. And I was like, okay. I was all right. Well, what was she writing down in the journal? And he was like, man, when she went to the bathroom, I went over there and looked in the journal, and she was like drawing like all these different type of monsters and stuff in her journal. I don't know what. And he was like, I don't know what she be saying or what kind of drugs she on. She's just drawing these monsters, these ugly creatures, and saying that, she going to go see her friend and leaving during the middle of the night. And I was like,
how old was your aunt? How old was your aunt? What's going on?
Man, she's older than my dad. She's in her 60s. Huh. She's in her like late 60s. And like I said, the whole story about her doing drugs and stuff don't make any sense to me, because she never liked smoking. And she used to tell my dad that she think that her mother-in-law, or her ex-mother-in-law now, was trying to do something to her, because she was always trying to give her food, and she never ate her food, right? And her ex-mother-in-law from Louisiana. And so I'm just trying to, just put things together, and the whole situation. She's in jail right now for squatting, right? Yeah. After we tried to bought her a camper, tried to fix it up for her. She never wanted to stay in the camper. She always wanted to go off into the woods and prowl, right?
Yeah.
And so the police finally put her in jail, and she won't let nobody come see her. She will only talk to me. I don't know why. I'm not that special. I don't know why I'm so special to her. But my mom called me the other day and was like, "Would you come back down to the house? Would you actually go down and she'll let you visit her?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll see." And I'm thinking about asking her about that journal, about what she was drawing.
I mean,
yeah,
I would want to know. I mean, like the stuff, when you mentioned the lights in the woods, there's some definite major Dogman cases I know of, and Bigfoot, but I can think of one where the family had seen like these glowing lights in the woods, and then that's when the sightings of packs of Dogmen would happen. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. Palmyra wolves.
And the funny thing about that, I'm starting to actually, I keep hearing about this, relationship between Bigfoot, Dogman, and UFOs. I have seen UFOs, and my dad have seen UFOs around where I stay at. And he actually told me about how back in his day when he was younger, he had an old school beat up truck or whatever, him and his buddy, they was driving down the road, and a bright light came, and it was like he said it was like a giant spotlight, and it was so bright that it lit up like both sides of the highway. It made it look like it was daytime, and it shut the engine off on this truck. And when it did that, it took off, and then he was like automatically his truck came back to life. he was able to drive it home. So I don't know.
I wonder if he had
It's
missing
just some
time.
weird stuff.
I wonder if he had some missing time. You know,
Man, I don't.
that'd be the question I'd ask him. You know, like, did you look at your clock? Did you see if you had any missing time?
Right.
You know? But people didn't think about that
And
probably back then at all. You know.
Yeah. Back then, yeah. But like the more stuff I hear about and listen to the shows, the more I'm starting to piece stuff together.
It sounds like you got family
And
history.
it just
man. I bet you if you look back further, you can find the connections there. I bet you it's not just your aunt or your father who've had these experiences.
right, man. I'm gonna have to.
And maybe
I'm
why
gonna
she
have
only
to
will
deep
talk to
dive
you.
into it. You think so?
I'd definitely look into your family history and
Yeah.
see if you got some ties back there with some.
There'd be a lot of things.
Maybe
I
you've
don't
got.
know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because it'd be interesting to see, especially where your family's from, and find out if they've got any. So you're from? Are you originally from Texas?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Texas, East Texas.
No, okay. So, what about your family? Are they any Cajuns in the
Yeah.
family? There you go.
You said New Orleans, didn't you?
Yeah.
No. I was saying that her mother-in-law is from Louisiana, from around New Orleans or somewhere around there. Yeah. My aunt's ex-mother-in-law now. So,
There may be some tie-ins on
I don't
there.
know.
So
Yeah.
Right.
I'm 45. I'm still trying to piece together all the weirdness that's happened over my life. You know.
Me both.
Right.
We're all trying to piece it together, but you calling in and talking about it, and I suggest writing your experiences down, which I need to take my own
Definitely.
advice on sometimes. But it helped me with my experiences when I wrote them down.
Right.
So write them down, and talking to the other family members. It sometimes is hard to do. Some people don't want to talk, but visiting her in jail and asking her is probably your best way of finding out.
Find out more about the friend too, and if just maybe if he had a lantern he carried, just to rule that out. But ask
Yeah,
more
it sounds
about
like her
what
friends are a
friend
bit
was.
mysterious there.
Yeah,
like
like
nobody
the
ever met
cleaning
them,
friend.
and she's going off in the middle of the night and drawing
Ask
pictures
about
of creatures.
those drawings more if you can.
Yeah. You
And
call
do
me
all
back
that
if you have
while
that
you're
conversation
still
with her, or email me at Paranormal-soup, jbland@gmail.com. It's in the show description there. Email me, let me know.
Okay.
We'll definitely bring you on to talk
Is
about
this
it.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
Oh, what's up, Jimmy? Hey, I thought I'd recognize your voice. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah. No, I just called in because I was just sitting here listening to bed in the back of the truck. I'm on the highway. I was just, listening to shows, before bed or whatever. And you said something about a black cat, and Tex said something about orbs in the woods. And man, it just clicked for some reason. I don't know. So I had to call in and ask about it.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure stuff out for like the longest. So
Maybe your aunt was maybe your aunt's friend was a changeling.
Glad you called in.
Skinwalker or something like that. It's really interesting. And I'm really interested if you have this conversation with your aunt, what she's going to tell you. And you need to have these conversations with your family members because they're not going to always be around.
All right. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Jimmy.
All right, Jimmy.
All right,
I'll
thank
see
you.
man.
Good meeting you, Jimmy.
All right.
That definitely wins most interesting call. That was really interesting because listen, like she's going out in the middle of the night with her friend, and there's lights in the woods, and they've seen a black cat. Man, you ever seen Cat People with Ian McDowell? You remember seeing that movie from the
years ago.
80s? Yeah, that was messed up. He had to sleep with his sister to carry on what the pure genetic line, right? Because that's what panthers do.
Well,
That was messed
there
up.
was me and I didn't see him in chat tonight, but Josh knows him, Gary Spike Sr. And he's part of our team, and he's one of our trackers. And me and him and his son and another couple of girls that were paranormal investigators were up in the cemetery one night, and that's a whole long encounter. But the short of it is, we had stuff going. We were separated by about 30 yards, and we had stuff going on at the same time, but different phenomena. But they were seeing, him and his son were seeing these black cat-like entities that were in the trees, and there were several of them. And they jumped down out of the trees, and they were on all fours, and they went to two legs, and they were approaching them. And every time when they finally hit them with a light, they would disappear, and then turn the light back off, and they'd be right back where they were. So yeah, that was a creepy night, man.
Anything like that in a grave? I'd love to get. We got another phone call I want to get to. We're gonna run out of time, but the other thing we even talk about is like how many of these things happen around graveyards and bodies of water too. It seems to be two factors that happen commonly. All right, we got somebody else on the line. Who do we got?
Jason, it's Dick Richards. How are you, buddy?
Hi, how you doing, Dick? Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. I wanted to say hi to Tex. First time we've got to chat before. And hi, Josh. How are you, brother?
Hey, what's going on, brother?
How you doing, Dick?
Not too much. Not too much. Yeah, really, eh? So, the Orbs. I think his aunt was going and going into the Orb. So for thousands of years, and especially in the ancient times, they used to think that these orbs were a fallen angel class called the Ophanum. And I prattled on the other day and went on and on Josh's show about it. So I figured I'd call up and give you the where it talks about it in the book of Ezekiel. Is that okay?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time, so the quick and short of it.
All right. So basically, now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth was the living creature with its four faces, and the appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl. And they had four unto one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So that's why you see these orbs, and they kind of look like it's two orbs in one. And when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. And as for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and the four rings, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whithersoever the spirit was to go, they went. Thither was the spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Basically, they're like an interdimensional taxi for demons.
See, I've had this theory.
That's my.
I've had the same theory.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
I had
100%, buddy.
I had a guest on, Chad and Alta Dillard. They wrote Orbducted, and this was in Louisiana, and they had some incredible messed up experiences, and they were taking inside one of these things, a blue orb.
Oh, sorry, you're cutting out, pal.
Oh, it said they were taken inside a blue orb, and there was a being inside. It
there
was
you go.
Inside, like the TARDIS and Doctor.
There you go.
Yes, I've had a big on that one for many years. Yes.
Yeah, I'm convinced, because this is what all the ancients used to believe these things were, and I guess they used to have encounters with them all the time, as much as we do.
Yeah, I mean, there's paintings and there's I mean, this goes back long time.
I mean, they'd kill people back in the day.
Yeah. I've always wondered if what we see with these orbs are some kind of transportation, interdimensional transportation. You know, that's why we see these entities after seeing the orbs, or after we see the entity, the orbs are the next thing you see. You know, there's
because the spirit of the living creature was in the wheel or the orb. Yeah, I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart, 100%.
It'd make a lot of sense biblically. You know what you're saying.
Sorry, can't hear you, brother.
Said it'd make a lot of sense biblically. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I truly believe that explains it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I mean, greater minds than I have thought that. So.
Yeah. Like I said, I have if you ever want to check it out, it's somewhere way back in my library. It's I think I had him on a couple times. It's Chad and Alta Dillard or Abducted. I don't know if the book is still published, but
yeah, I will be checking that out actually, probably right after this show. So thank you very much, sir.
Several years ago. Thank you so much for calling in.
Appreciate you, buddy.
All right, bye.
Have a great day, guys. All the best.
Later.
God bless you all.
You too.
He's a long time.
I've been fascinated with orbs. That's another fictional story I've tried to write, is about somebody traveling through the parallel universes in one of these kind of like biblical wheels in the sky orbs. It's something I've been fascinated with, that idea. Like, will he hit that on the head, something I've been totally fascinated with. And is that, the possible? Like, are they like some kind of dimensional vehicle? I mean, we start getting into these things, entities that exist in beyond dimensions that we don't even understand. Their ships might not even look like ships to us.
And they do actually kill people. There have been a couple cases that I've covered. One I got not too long ago. I haven't even told on the show yet. And the lady's name was started with like an S, Sarah, Susan, Sharon, something like that. But her uncle was out hunting, and her uncle raised her aunt and uncle, because her mother had given her up. So she ended up like, her uncle was out deer hunting, and he kept claiming for like 2 or 3 days that there were these orbs that were circling around the deer stand, and he claims that one of them touched him, like went to him, like touched him, like, and then an hour later, they didn't hear from him when they called and they called and they called. So her other uncle had gone out to the stand to check on him, and he had his heart. Well, he didn't have a heart attack. He had cardiac arrest, which is different. His heart stopped. And this was shortly after supposedly the orb. And this echoes the same thing something that happened in Pensacola, Florida. Another person claimed that their mother or their grandmother was seeing orbs. And same thing happened to her. Her heart stopped. So I don't know if these things take these people, and their body just stops functioning. Maybe that's what happens.
Or just an inconvenient reaction to the presence of them, not intentional, even.
Or they're scared. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but whatever these things are, I mean, they've been with us, if it's biblical, thousands of years. And how do we even understand or comprehend something that's beyond our physical reality that's manifesting here like this, that kind of energy? Like I said, with Chad and Alta Dillard, there was a blue skinned, kind of like a gray alien, but he looked bluish skinned alien that piloted that craft. Their stories.
That's weird. You were talking about blue skin, because we were talking about that earlier in a graveyard. The story that was on the first one we talked about on the show tonight. We talked about we had a ghost story. I don't know if it was a ghost or a demon, but then we had a vampire story and then a werewolf story. And I categorize it, but I don't know what it is. But the first being was like this blue skinned looking thing. And it either had ram horns or it was wearing a ram's skull. But that color comes up. I had a dream about that too. Something
Something else I've been fascinated with is the idea of these blue skinned beings and stuff like that. And look at India and the description of the aliens there being blue skinned. Then you got blue bloods. I don't know.
That's definitely
connections,
something.
Dots. We're putting it all together.
Thank you to Dick Richards though, and Slim Jimmy. That was Slim Jimmy and Dick Richards. Those guys are both like listeners of PRT, and thank you for coming over here.
Yeah, thank you.
So who is your guest coming up on Sunday?
That was on with Tex and
Kevin, right?
Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin Murphy.
Okay. So then we need to let BMR know, because we had him scheduled. What time is, or not what time?
I mean, if you can't, Kevin's pretty open. I can talk to Kevin and see if he wants to push it back to the following Sunday.
Yeah, I'll talk to, I don't know, or Tex or you or I can talk to BMR and see what he wants to do. He's pretty flexible, but it depends. Yeah. He's got a pretty amazing story too.
He's one of the very few people that I know that has ever witnessed a Bigfoot vocalizing at him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and he thinks that it may have led to the death of his girlfriend. So it is a very, when I interviewed him, it was pretty poignant. But he's a good guest. I mean, and I don't know.
Let me know, because Kevin told me he can fit in probably whenever. So if I have to push him back, I don't think he'll be mad. So just let me know. I'll talk. Reach out to me tomorrow and find out, and I'll let Kevin know if I got to reschedule him.
And Anthony said, "Aren't the Pleiadians blue-skinned as well?" Yes, but the Pleiadians, it depends on which ones, because there's tall whites.
Yeah.
Too, that are supposedly Pleiadians, and then there's Arcturians, and there's all these. Who knows? I mean, it would stand to reason that depends on their atmosphere and where they're from, if they actually. And everybody's like, well, they're also there's no such thing as aliens. They're actually demons. Well, one man's demon is another person's alien. I mean, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Yeah, some of these aliens act like demons. They act like devils, and demons can act alien.
So do humans.
Yeah, there's humans that are just completely evil, wicked.
Yeah.
Just
you don't. If they're stranger danger, you don't know them. Don't trust them. Alien or
yeah,
human.
I mean, and I saw a video earlier today of this little black puppy. He was just wiggling. You know how you can look and tell this is an. I love animals anyway, but this dog was no threat to this man. And this man was on a bicycle, and it was in some other country. You could tell it was like a third world country, but he pulls out a pocket knife and starts swiping it at the dog. And this woman comes out there and smacks him and throws water on him. And I thought that was hilarious.
When I was in kindergarten, I lived in this trailer park, and this guy was trying to pound this little puppy with his fist. Like, he was down on the ground trying to pound it with his fist, and the kids are yelling at him, and he's telling us to F off, and no adults around yet. And I grabbed a rock and threw it at him, and he didn't see it. I threw it because he had turned his back and hit him right in the back of the head, and then he was ready to murder children. And then the Mrs. Early, the trailer park supervisor, came out there and was like, "What's going on?" We're like, "He was trying to beat that dog." And she's like, ready to kick his butt. He's screaming about somebody threw a rock at him. I'm like, "Oh, look at me."
I beat a guy with his own.
But I didn't care.
What happened, Jamie?
Beating the crap out of a dog. I made my friend pull over. I grabbed the leash from him. It had a chain on the end, and I was whipping and whipping and whipping him. He's screaming and crying. He's going to call the cops. I said, "Someone call the cops."
Yeah, somebody better call the cops because I'm about to murder your ass.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen.
And he's running around. I'm just whipping him with this leash till the cops came.
I can't understand how people can mistreat animals. There could be a farm.
Anything that's helpless.
Yeah.
Children, elderly, animals.
What's the first sign of a sociopath?
They hurt animals.
They hurt animals.
Well, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3. My neighbor next to me, he's a huge animal lover, and as I am. And he was really upset, and he's like, "Man, I don't know what's going on. This is just really horrible." And they had, and he shows me these. He sent me these pictures, but somebody had dismembered a couple of cats and threw them over in his backyard. And he called the cops and everything, and I mean, it was bad. There was like, it was bad. I literally dismembered these cats. And, the cops took the information and that type of thing. And he was talking to me about it. And I'm like, well, and he knew I had the show and everything. And he goes, I just kind of want your take on it, because I do a true crime show too.
Yeah.
And I said, honestly, it sounds like we've got a budding psychopath around.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. His wife did some digging, did some research. There was 29 more cases in the county of that happening. I'm like, yeah. This
Eventually they move on from cats and they move on to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if it's a young person, that's, usually, like I said, budding psychopath,
Yeah, probably a teenager, and when they hit their 20s is when they probably move on to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was very, I was really on guard there for a while around, I'm like, but
yeah, you should be. Those
absolutely.
are clear signs. They're
because I told him, I said, look, I don't want to scare you, but this is what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Especially with that information that your wife found and everything. I said, yeah, somebody's on the escalation track for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And just dumping them in somebody's backyard too. They're getting kicks out of it, out of frightening people too. And that's what serial killers get their kicks out of, is that I have the power now to inflict fear and pain. Because usually they are a victim of somebody else doing it to them. Right. And what do? They end up killing animals.
Yep.
First or around the property. It's just the same. It's so similar.
And I didn't know, I talked about the dog being underneath my house, and I didn't know till I started talking to Danielle Stedman about this, that for some reason, dogmen have for some reason they have a thing. They'll kill the animals around the property and they'll throw them underneath a structure of some kind.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
and I'm not sure. I mean, there's got to be some kind of a territorial thing. I can't really. I don't see any other animalistic, explanation for it.
Or maybe it's more just, we think in the terms of animalistic and animal behavior, but maybe this is, we're talking about something that's much more evil.
Yeah.
It's about the energy it's creating.
Yeah. And I don't know that they're all, I don't know that they're all evil. I just don't know.
If they kill your family dog, good chances are.
Well, I mean,
I don't care if they're evil or not. They kill my dog.
No, I'm with you.
They're dead dog man if I catch them.
No, I'm with you. And if I had known that was what had taken place, I'd have,
know.
But anyway, I'm not sure if all these critters are absolutely evil, like some waiting around every tree to snatch you up and kill you at every opportunity. That is obviously.
So what I'm hearing is you're a Dogman serial killer sympathizer, Tex.
That'll make a good meme. Thank you.
Yeah, right. No, but there might be
the name of what was it? Charles Manson's guy. That was his right hand guy, Tex.
Tex. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and Rob's all the time talking about me summoning demons. So
Stop summoning those demons.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for all those memes to hit. I mean,
Oh my God. Well, hey, Tex. Yeah, go ahead.
Rob and Tex and Monica, all of your whole clique, the Blondes and Booze, all of you guys are some of the best people. Just been 100% helpful and good people, decent people. Jason, Jamie, I've known you all a long time, and I always, every chance I get, I throw you guys out there to people because I think you guys do a really good job, and you're unsung heroes of this field.
That means a lot.
I've met all of you guys, and I haven't met Jason yet in person. We've talked so many times. I feel like I know him very well, but just knowing what I know of you guys, dude, I know you're really good-hearted people. It doesn't surprise me, Jason, that you hit some dickhead in the back of the head with a rock to save a puppy because that's yeah. And Tex, you're a good guy, and somebody had said something one day. They were like, "Oh, well, people who are fascinated by serial killers," and I said that's bullshit because, excuse my language, but I'm going to say this: being fascinated by that, because if you think it's normal and you're just like, "Oh, well, that's just how people are," that's not how people are.
No,
so you're fascinated by that because it is an abhorrent behavior. Yeah, the psychology behind it. It's like, where are people sick? Because I'm not that way.
Yeah.
I can't fathom.
I have empathy.
You have an empathy in you.
Right.
It's like you
so
can't.
How does somebody get to that point?
Someone can think like that, so you try to figure it out.
Yeah. All right. I had somebody else trying to call in. Phone lines are down because we got to end the show. I am so thankful again, Josh, for bringing Tex here. Thank you, Tex. It's an honor to have you on the show. We got to do it again, and I got to get so many other guests lined up. Talk to me tomorrow, Josh, about for next Sunday, because like I said, I'm sure I can reschedule Kevin if he wants to do this Sunday. I'm sure Kevin won't mind because he's pretty open to the schedule. So just let me know on that. Thank you, everybody, tonight. Thank you for the donations tonight, too, from Jimmy and who else? We had Jimmy and King Dibbies. Thank you, Slim Jimmy, King Dibbies. Thank you so much. Don't forget to check us out on King Dibbles.
That's my brother.
No.
That's my brother. It's Diablo, man.
King Dibbles. King Diablo. That's it for the show, guys. We'll be back next Sunday. Either we're going to have Kevin Murphy on, or we have, what's it? I already forgot the name of the guy. Yes.
Either way, good show.
It's going to be a good show either way. Next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Follow and subscribe. And you can also become a YouTube member or a Patreon member. All the links are there. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. See you next Sunday. Have a great night.